Pastor Jeff McFalls from Meadow Assembly of God to give us our invocation. Reverend McFalls.
Will we pray, please? Father, we thank you for your many blessings in our life. God, in spite of all the hardships and the economic downturn of this society, we still live in the greatest country in the world, and we're thankful for that. God, I thank you for the truth of your word, for the promises of your word. I thank you, Lord, that you promised that if we will call upon you, that you will incline your ear to hear. And so tonight we ask that you would be with us. I thank you for these men and women who give so much of their lives and try their best to lead our county and to do the right things. Lord, it's a thankless job often, and we just want to tell them that we appreciate them. But Lord, I pray that they would understand and that we would understand it's nothing that they can do on their own, that they must seek your divine wisdom and guidance. I pray, God, that you would indeed impart to them your spirit of wisdom, that when they make decisions, they don't make decisions based on their own knowledge, but they can hear a word from you. Lord, I pray that you would just help us all to continue to seek after you. Your word again promises that if we will seek, we will find you. I pray, God, that you would direct us and lead us, and that, Lord, by your grace and mercy, we would be a people that glorify your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And thank you, Jeff. Okay, the first item of business is the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item 15 of the consent.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to discuss number 12 of the consent.
We're going to pull 15, 12. Ms. Arch.
I would like to pull items 14 and 15.
We already got 15 to us twice there.
Oh.
Anybody else? Okay, any other changes to the agenda? Mr. Administrator, you had one item that you had pulled, didn't you? Is it off of there now?
18.
Yes, we pulled number 18.
Okay.
I don't see where she's...
Okay, any others? Any other changes? Is there a motion to approve with those modifications?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Brock. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Second by Mr. Moore. All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item is public hearing.
Yes, Commissioners. This evening we're having a public hearing which is a request to transmit the revised public school facilities element and revised capital improvements element. These are text amendments to the comprehensive plan at CP 10-01. This is our first cycle of 2 cycles that we hold every year to send text amendments and large-scale amendments up to the Department of Community Affairs. I would note to the board this evening that the public school facilities element is a relatively new element for the comprehensive plan, and we have been working closely with the school board. Essentially, they have updated the data and analysis related to the public school facilities element and changed some of the population projections and school facilities needs. They look out 20 years, and then they look at 10 years, 5 years from the time. And the largest changes in that data is really, we used to show a population increase which would require a new high school 20 years out, as well as a new middle school and elementary school 20 years out. The numbers have changed somewhat to where we are now anticipating need 20 years out for a new elementary school. However, the middle school and the high school have been removed from those projections. I would note The commission will be seeing the capital improvements element again later on this year. We will be updating the capital improvements element further to show, to further reflect the new budget year as well as changes to the capital improvements plan, the CIP, which is part of the annual budget. So those changes, the specific project lists contained in the capital improvements element, all of those revisions will occur during our second cycle later on this year. And there was some minor text changes, and I'll let Melissa speak to those briefly so we can open this up for a public hearing.
Good evening. The minor text amendments that were included in both the public school facilities element and the capital improvements element deal with the actual approval date for the school board's 5-year educational facilities work plan. Every year they must go in and update that. The last revision date for that is actually November the 29th of 2010, and by the language requirements in our comprehensive plan, now we must go back and include that updated date in those two elements, public school facilities and the capital improvements element. In addition, there was also language that was added to the public school facilities element, which addressed the technical review committee, and that is where new applications, say for site plans and rezonings, are considered by staff. And language was added to that just to clarify that the school board member will have ability to sit on that technical review committee and make comments that will come forward before the Planning Commission and this board. And so at this time, staff is recommending option 1, which is conduct the second of 2 public hearings and vote to transmit the proposed text amendment to the Department of Community Affairs and other state agencies for review.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brock and seconded by Ms. Arts. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none. All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
There were any speakers.
Okay, the next item is awards and presentations. Mr. Murray McLaughlin will speak to us on the Wakulla Heritage Project.
I'm Kathy Frank. I'm the president of the Historical Society, and I would just like to thank you for this time that you're giving us. And everyone is a bunch of hardworking people, and we are passionate about preservation, and we appreciate your support. And I give you Murray. He's going to tell you more about it.
Thanks so much, Kathy, and commissioners. I want to thank you for this opportunity as well. Most of you are aware we have Wakulla Historical Society. In fact, you provide to us the old jail, which we use as a museum currently. But we have another project we've been working on for some time called our Heritage Village. We have a great vision for what we'd like to do if we can obtain about 20 to 30 acres of land. We have a lot of old homes that have been donated to us by citizens of the county that has historic value, and if we can get those homes located at a suitable place for our village, then we'll begin to develop that village and be able to offer that to the county as certainly a destination tourism site. Betty Green, who is the heart and soul of Wakulla Historical Society, couldn't be here tonight, but I asked Jessica if she would show just a short video. Florida State University Public TV developed a 3-part video about our project. I'm not going to show the entire thing, but just to give a good overview, I'm going to show the first part of this video about Heritage Village. Part 1.
We don't have a lot of old houses because most of them burned. We have some that are very nice, some that are still being lived in, but some of the old houses are being lost because they're just standing empty and being allowed to fall into disrepair.
you're not going to be able to save this house.
No, it's too far gone. Betty Green and Jim Calhoun are members of the Wakulla County Historical Society, and they've taken on the daunting task of trying to save what's left of Wakulla County's family history.
When you tell the story of the house, you're telling the story of the families, and that's our history, that's our heritage. And we're going to establish a little community of those houses to depict the lifestyle of those people in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
That community will be called the Heritage Village.
Our major goal right now is to acquire some land to put the houses on. We have a number of houses that have been donated to us, but we have no place to put them. And as time goes by, we're losing more of them.
Lost, like the Tully House.
The Tully House, the two-story house that's in so much disrepair, is a sad thing because the family that grew up there wanted very much to save it, but they didn't know how to go about it, and they didn't have the finances to do it.
But we will save a lot of material, like the lap siding. That's all in good shape. We'll take that lap siding off, and where we have other houses that are missing, we will use this to replace some of that. Same thing with the timbers underneath it. Because most of those timbers are hard pine stuff, and they'll still be good. But that's what we're going to have to do with this one. So just take it apart, dismantle it, and use what we can.
It started out being the bunkhouse for G.W. Tully when he went to Medard to get his timber to build the courthouse and so forth. And then later the McLaughlin family lived there and they raised all their children there. I think they had 8 or 9 children.
This section here, we're in the Tully bunkhouse, right? That's where Tully and his son bunked while they cut the mill wood to build the courthouse and other houses they built.
This was originally in Medard.
This is where it's really that up.
So after Tully sold it, this is calling we're calling McLaughlin, right?
Yeah, McLaughlin bought it, and they expanded kind of along like the shotgun out of it almost. Shotgun out, where they went that way for the room, and they went that way for the room.
The Coggins house, it was a fine home. They had a beautiful garden and everything. And they took in boarders. And the Coggins themselves, they had several children, I think about 6 or 7.
This house is a Coggins house, and it's a typical Georgian style house. You know, like this for old farmhouses, but they were fairly well off to have a house this size. And the reason this is called foxtrot is because you got a breezeway, 8 foot wide, going all the way through the house. These houses are 12 foot ceiling, and that was because heat rises, and the heat would be up there, and it'd be a little cooler sitting around out here.
Most Strickland, he and his wife, who was Fanny Coleman, they built the house, and they built it with all materials from right around there. They had cypress from the swamps, and they used all local materials. And of course, they had the people that lived in the community helped them build the house. And then their son, Isaiah, he was the youngest son. And when he married, his wife came there to live, and they lived there and raised all their children. So there were 2 generations that were raised there before everybody spread out.
See, some of the axe quacks. So they tried to get it as square as they could to put the floor joist on it. And this beam is probably a 10 by 12. If it's, you know, look like it's more a little bit, but it's a little bit thicker here at one time. But this beam has to be 26 foot long. And today, wood like that would cost you a fortune.
We would like very much to have 30 acres. The houses that we have, we could locate very easily on 20 acres. But I know of several houses that are very worthwhile that may become available in the future. 30 acres would be much better.
The Heritage Village is an ongoing project. On the next episode of Dimensions, we'll bring you the second part of our look at life in Wakulla County at the turn of the last century. For WFSU, I'm Mike Plummer.
So that's kind of an overview of what we're looking at in terms of these old houses. They're more than just buildings. Obviously, they represent stories about families from this county, pioneer families, and we would point to several other counties and communities that have done similar things. There's a similar program over in Bluntstown, Florida. Westville, Georgia has a rebuilt town. But we're not just going to try to put together a village to show these houses. It would be really a festival and cultural location for arts and for theater and for interactive education, school children visiting there. So festivals would be held there. It would become a tourist destination. We are already in the month of March. You'll hear more about this, but in the month of March we're going to begin our first in a series of heritage plays. In other words, I don't know if you've ever been to Colquitt, Georgia, to Swamp Gravy or not. Now, we're not going to try to duplicate Swamp Gravy, but certainly we have historical stories here that we want to tell and we want to depict in theater, and we're going to use the old courthouse, the old wooden courthouse upstairs, which a high school has used recently for some productions, and we'll have 3 nights, March 18th, 19th, and 20th. So this whole concept of the village will encompass more than just a place where you can go look at old houses, although that's certainly important. It's going to become a cultural center for Wakulla County if we can get the help that we need. Now, I understand the county is going to, once again, submit a grant for us, a grant application. Hopefully we can get the funding to get the land. But if we don't, we'll keep working at it. Somebody may someday just decide they want to donate 20 acres to us, and we'll certainly take it and be happy to get it. But I hope this gives you a little, for those who are new, gives you a little introduction as to what we're about. We're more than just a museum over here. We're a larger program with a great vision. And when we do have the dress rehearsal for the first folk play, a heritage play in Wakulla County, I want to extend an invitation to each of you as commissioners to be our honored guests for the dress rehearsal. We'll have refreshments, and you'll get to come and preview what we're going to be doing for the next 3 performances as our guest. And hopefully you can do that. You will get more information in writing regarding that. And thanks again. We really appreciate all you do. We know you have many priorities in this county, all good priorities, but we certainly hope that you will keep us in mind as you move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Murray. I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on, we put together an application to submit to Florida Communities Trust 2 years ago to purchase a property down in Medart for the Heritage Village. And the application was completely written, but then at the last minute FCT had their funding cut and said don't send them. So we were hoping that last year, that funding would reopen, but they said, again, we don't have any funding from the legislature, so don't send applications. But this year, applications are being accepted in the hope that there might be some legislative funding. And it's important, I think, to get our application in there because we will get some feedback on it. And we definitely won't get funding if we don't try. The application's basically already written. It just needs maybe a little updating. And maybe, Tim, do you have some more to say about?
No, Commissioner, I think you pretty much covered it. Yep, we're going to work to get the application rebooted and transmitted up there by February 23rd and see if we can get a shot at being successful if the legislature opens up the floodgates and provides funding for us.
Any other comments by commissioners? I want to encourage the public to go to the old jail over here and just see what those folks have done, and it's wonderful. Every time I go, y'all have put more stuff in there to go through and reminisce about. If you have any heritage here in the county, you'll want to go there and look because it's really a neat place. They fixed upstairs up. You need to go see it. I encourage all Wakulla citizens to go stop in. It only takes a few minutes to go through it, but it's worth it. And I want to thank all you guys who have worked hard at that. We appreciate. I know a lot of volunteer time goes into that. We appreciate y'all.
Mr. Stewart, by the way, my grandma went to school in that church that you saw me in, that schoolhouse at that last picture there.
There you go.
By any chance, do you have a location that you would like to put this on at this time?
Well, yes, actually we do. In the interest of time, I wasn't going to show this, but...
You've got to have you have a half a minute.
Half a minute. Yeah, this is at Fort Gray Road and 319. Now, the last application we submitted for this site. We like it because, number one, it's about 30 acres. We actually have the concept laid out with these houses, amphitheater. This is a wetlands area back here, place just to go and sit and relax. And it gives us two entrances. If you had to come in off of just 319, it'd be kind of dangerous on that curve. But Fort Gray Road, we can have an access here, and that would give us an excellent location. It's in the middle of the county.
Scenic byway.
Scenic byway.
Have you discussed the price with the owner of that?
Well, we did earlier. I assure you it's much less.
I would make you a suggestion, and I don't know if you'd get in front of the grant. Get your price that you can live with, then get an agreement that you can go ahead and move forward until such point as you can get a grant.
Yeah, good idea.
You could possibly go ahead and be moving some of your homes in there if you get the right contract, and then as long as that didn't get in front of the grant. If you had a lease on a piece of property prior, would that affect the grant? Possibly. But that's a way of tying this property down at a low cost today, and the owner, from his standpoint, he's going to be really thrilled that he has it sold. And then it's just a problem of, that's an idea.
Is that so?
One of the reasons this property is nice is because it has a historic home sitting on it.
I think it's pre-installed with an old house.
It is.
Right,
And
so...
right across Kittywampus from where the Tully house is.
And the McLaughlin Tully is on the skids there on Marshall Spears property.
Yeah.
So
And it's
you moved it right there.
It's in a great community of Medoc.
Yeah, plus it's in a great community.
You bet.
Absolutely. By the way, Jim Calhoun, who was featured in the video with Ms. Green, he walked in a little bit late.
Mr. Calhoun, did you want to say something?
More about these old homes than anybody in Wakulla County, I assure you.
Come on up, sir. You have a few words for us?
Well, if you've got any questions about the structure of the house, or a lot of people are concerned with well, how long are they going to stand there? You know, they've been sitting there empty for years, and they're deteriorating quickly. But there's the timber that those houses was made of is what they used to call the old heart pine. I mean, just the center cut of a tree. And, you know, the termites don't like it. I mean, they've eaten all they can and they've gone. So the structure, main structure of the buildings, they'll last for a good long time. But the exterior, like tin roofs and things that we need to start addressing right away, they're deteriorating. As you saw in the, what was one of the houses where it showed the picture where the ceiling was? Coggins house. And it's sitting on that property that we'd like to have, where the tin roof has, you know, just deteriorated. And that's why you saw a hole coming down through the ceiling and all the way to the floor. Now, since then, I've patched that the best I can. But what we need is a place to start moving these houses so we can put them back together.
Just get your lease on the property and get started.
Well,
Get your price. You got a low market. Go ahead and get your lease until get it. The attorneys can work it out to where you can stay there until we get the money.
okay, sounds great. And I remember from the old post office in Smith Creek, these houses are very flammable too. They're all
Oh yeah.
That's
why they built their kitchens in a separate building in the back. There's more fire there than anywhere. But anyway.
Well, thank y'all.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right, moving along to the consent agenda. I can have a motion to approve all the items except for 12, 14, and 15, which have been requested to be pulled.
Motion approved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Merritt to approve all the other items, with the exception of 12, 14, and 15. Seconded by Mr. Brock. All for the motion?
Aye.
No, that's not the right way to do it. Let's back the dog up. Yes, it is. All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 12.
My speech on this one is sort of like slapping your mother. I support the library, and I don't want anybody to ever think that I don't. But I can't support spending money that we don't have. I think we're probably broke in the county. So just to make a long story short, I have a library in my home. I spent all my time at Auburn in a library. I spent all my time growing up in a library. But this is spending money that we don't have, even though half of it is on the side of a grant. So I just can't support I cannot support any expenditure of spending money out of the general fund that we don't have.
Okay. Any more comments by commissioners?
I think staff did an excellent job of analyzing what really how few staff we have given the population, the size of the collection, the number of things that get checked out. Our library is running an extremely efficient, effective operation. And so I commend you all on that, and you did an excellent analysis in this item. And if we didn't replace this position, the library, which has had major cutbacks in recent years at the state level, is going to have additional cuts purely by losing this position. So, and it's relatively inexpensive salary.
Any other comment? Have one citizen to be heard. How
motion.
We can go ahead.
Move to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Brock, seconded by Ms. Arts. Mr. Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Having been a member of the Friends of the Library over the time that I've been here, of course I'm supportive of the library. Not everyone may be well off enough to have their own library in their home. But a library now is not just a library. The library provides a lot of different functions for the community, without which our community would be severely stressed. So in helping people look for work, get their applications in, all different things that happen on the computers, that our library has that open access that people that don't have their own computers can go to. It's very important. I think our library is one of the most efficient libraries in the state of Florida, having visited many. And I encourage you to support this and fund this position. Thank you.
Okay. I'm for the motion. I just want to make sure that the public understands the budgetary impact that you wrote in here. It looks like there is no impact. Is that right, Tim? You said it's already budgeted for the entire fiscal year.
That's correct. It's
okay.
It's a position that we've had since we started the fiscal year, so there's money there budgeted for it.
And also in your paragraph earlier, it says eliminating or freezing the vacated position would also have a negative impact on the amount of state aid the library will receive in future years. So I'm just saying we need to be cautious not to cut our throat for out years of money that we may can get. I'm a supporter of the library. If you ever go in that library, you see how many people use it, young and old. It's amazing, and that's one of those things that even in tough times that you got to try to maintain a level of service that people expect to have, and I think we'd be foolish not to do that. So I certainly am for it. Doug, you had a comment?
I really don't have any comments in addition to what is in the agenda item. When you began talking about the budget impact, it may be that we should have stated that as a negative impact. If the position which is currently funded is eliminated, the effect of taking away those local tax dollars that are spent on that position would negatively affect our state aid. So it's it does have a future budget impact. And I didn't maybe state that clear enough in that agenda item.
I caught it, but I mean, it's obvious that what you wrote there is, it's like you'd be cutting our own throat if we don't, but in the same time, we'd be cutting the library's throat with, the level of service that we'll be able to provide, so.
Exactly. And I really do think you have one of the most efficient libraries in the state of Florida. And you've got 3 people behind that front desk that work themselves to death from the time we open the doors in the morning at 9 till we close them at 8 o'clock at night, some nights of the week, and 6 o'clock on others. They're hard pressed now to take lunch hours, to take breaks. We're crippled when somebody's out sick or on vacation, and taking away 1/3 of that staffing at the front desk is going to would have a tremendously negative impact.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I really support your library. It's that we have no cash. We're out of cash. We got to go somewhere and get that cash, and that's going to come from the citizens in the form of an increased tax burden this year, or it's going to come from the county employees that we have to let go or reduce their hours. It's just that simple. We've just had a expose on hiring a fire chief. Right in the first month I've been here, we've had 2 opportunities to cut the budget by probably $100,000, and we haven't done it. And don't get me wrong, I love the library, and I think your people are probably doing a great job. So it has nothing to do with you doing a good job in the need. It's just that we have no cash.
Doug, can you talk a little bit about, I apologize.
No answer.
Doug, can you talk a little bit about how our library, because you mentioned the state funding, I know, what percentage of our budget for our library comes from the state?
It's about 30%. And rural counties in general have a much higher percentage of funding coming from the state than urban areas. So the impact of losing state aid dollars has a big impact on us. And at the state level, as Commissioner Moore mentioned, they're also seeking ways to cut wherever they can. The library has been targeted over the past 2 years as a program that the state zeroed out. Only at the last minute was funding restored, because I think they felt that they saw the impact libraries had on the lives of citizens all over the state of Florida, the importance that the library serves as a place for people to have access to computers, which, because they've closed so many state offices, it's often the only way you can communicate with the Department of Children and Families, food stamps, flood insurance, emergency FEMA help. You need to use a computer, and many people who need those services don't have them at home, and so the library has served as a huge focal point for that type of contact with government.
Okay. Scott, did you have something to add?
Just to reiterate what Doug said, the ladies at the front desk, and I go out there and help whenever they need me. But if we take away one of those 3 ladies, I mean, I'm going to have to forbid anybody from being sick or taking vacations if we want to keep this service level up where it is. I understand it's a tough budget. I totally understand that, but the salary, frankly, isn't that high. It's not. We need the help there. We have over 200 people coming to the library on a slow day, and to cut their service essentially by 33% at the front desk, that's going to affect the citizens in a big way.
Okay. Are any more? Yes, ma'am.
I guess I would like to hear Tim comment about the statement, we're out of cash, but I would like to hear that. But I appreciate that we need to find ways to contain or reduce our expenses. We need to do that. What I have some difficulty with is doing it in this way. As part of the budget process, we'll look at the whole picture and we'll make decisions about where we think we can cut or eliminate. this approach where whoever is first up for retirement or dies or whatever, that position comes to us, if we looked at all the positions in the county, is this the one we would zero in as the first to get rid of? I don't think so. We're talking about a $20,000 salary, basically, for a new person. And a department that's understaffed relatively. So I think we could be more effective if we do some of this as part of the budget process rather than on a, as openings kind of come up. That's just my opinion.
By that time, we put the 100,000 back on the books. So when do we start?
We're starting the budget process in February, March. We're starting soon.
March. But by the time it finishes, whatever. One thing for you, Mr. Jones, though.
Yes, sir.
We discard cell phones every other month. Very shortly, we're going to start discarding iPads. And I would recommend that the people, instead of discarding their iPads, turn them over to you so that you can use them in the library, because this is a digital world, and we're going to, every high school student in 2 years, every high school student, college student, and most families will have an iPad, and they'll be able to access your library from an iPad. So going forward, if anybody's going to get rid of an iPad, they're not worth anything when you're grading up. Give it to Mr. Jones. He would
gladly accept the donation of an iPad at the library right now. It's technology that's becoming very popular, and quite frankly, we can't afford to purchase it in our budget as it is, and if someone donated one, we could at least learn how to use them and help them when they came in and asked for help.
So they're going to become a commodity, just like a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Just right now, they're right now in that way. There's 1,000 companies making iPads, and you can use every one that somebody doesn't want tomorrow.
Okay. Any more discussion?
One more thing, Mr. Martin, as per our county hiring policy, this position will be offered first to laid-off county employees, is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. We're gonna advertise this in-house. If any employees that are being affected by the reduction, but programs going away in housing, they'll be eligible to apply for this position. Just a few more things on comments that have been made. I would be the first one to be cut in this position if I thought it was something that would not affect the level of services at the library and affect the public that wanted to use the library. So, I mean, that's the way you cut back, is through attrition, and this would have been an opportunity. But I see this as being a double whammy detrimental to the county, in that you would not only lose the grant funding. What you would lose is you would lose the position, and you would lose the grant funding as well. So you're taking a double hit there, and plus you would lose the level of service at the library. As Mr. Joyner stated, that you might have to reduce the hours that they're open. You might have to do some other reductions in service that the citizens have been used to. So this is why I was bringing this forward and not telling Doug we're going to pull it and not even consider it. So that's the thought behind that process. The other process is with cash. Is we're not out of cash. We wouldn't be here tonight in this building if we were out of cash. We still make our payroll. We have cash. The problem is that we need to reduce our expenditures in order to build back up our fund balance that has been diminished over the last few years. So to say it's a process that we need to undertake, absolutely, and we're going to have some tough decisions for the board to make coming forward as the year goes on. But we're going to assure you, in the clerk's back there, that we're not out of sitting cash, that we're paying our bills. So I just want to clear those things up.
Here again, please excuse me, Mike. We will be out of cash. We may not be out of cash today, but we were $700,000 short last year. This is going to be a worse year than last year. And we made the $700,000 up, but we made it up from somewhere else other than the county. We have got to get into the county. We can't ask other departments, other constitutional officers, to kick in unless we kick in. We've got to reduce our budget, and it's my budget today. I'm asking you to reduce yours. I don't want you to touch mine, but we're going to have to reduce budgets all over the place.
Commissioner, I couldn't agree more. And
we agree on this, so I'm not fussing at you or
I never
anything.
asked the Constitution to do anything that we have not done ourselves. So I can guarantee you we'll be asking tough questions, and we'll be asking them for some tough.
Well, we've got to go by. We've got to lead. We've got to be a leader.
I think we have done that in the past.
Very
We'll
good.
continue to do so.
Not a problem.
Can I, just again for my own education or clarification, the shortfall last year, that 700,000 wasn't all on us. Is that correct? That was in a large part due to at least one other constitutional officer falling short.
A litany of things that occurred at the same time. So I don't want to pinpoint any particular item, but I'm going to bring a report to the board on the 28th, and I'll clarify.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve advertising, interviewing, and filling the library assistant one position being vacated by Ms. Clarissa Wilkerson. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. The next item is 14.
Sorry about that.
I just had some questions, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to make the round table the other evening. I was at the legislative delegation. One of the reasons I pulled this is because a citizen had expressed concern to me about the match, and one of the things I wanted to make public is that when it says an in-kind match, the county's not providing any money.
Right.
It's usually hours of volunteer time or whatever, correct?
Right.
Okay, so in this example, the $2,500 is, what is going to be the in-kind match?
It will be mostly volunteer out. Gosh, this seems awfully loud. It will be mostly volunteer hours to help gather data to use for this marketing and economic impact kind of study. If it turns out, I mean, I have not completed the application yet, so I'm still working on that. If it looks like we will need some cash, that cash would come from TDC, Tourist Development Tax monies at the approval of the council and of course the commission too, but it would not come out of general fund dollars or county dollars. But the intention at this point is to match it with in-kind hours.
Right, and I don't think, in-kind is kind of a strange term, and I think people don't always understand what an in-kind match means.
It just means that we can assign a value to the volunteer hours that people put in toward the project, and they consider that as matched toward the grant.
Okay, I also had a question. Can the $5,000 marketing grant be put toward actual marketing expenses? Are you just choosing to do a study?
We're choosing to do a study. We actually have a funded grant this year that is producing some promotional materials for us, rack cards that will be distributed to visitor centers around the state, and actually some postcards is one of the things that we included in the funding for that grant. So actually a lot of it was somewhat based on some of our roundtable discussion the other night, that we're doing pretty good with our printed promotional materials, and we have also our Coastal Partnerships grant this year that's another $50,000 toward marketing and promotion. So we felt like that actually, the oil spill and the questions that have come up about how much Wakulla County has lost is what spurred this, because we don't really know, other than the tourist development tax revenues that we see get a statement of every month. We really don't have a good handle on the number of visitors that are coming and where they're coming from and what times of year they're coming, other than just anecdotal. So we need some help to start to gather that data and then give us a method to keep it up after that.
Okay, and do you have somebody in mind to do the study, or how are you going to select whoever does the study?
We would do an RFP. Okay. Absolutely. If it gets funded, we would do an RFP.
Okay, those were all my questions, thank you.
Just so the citizens know, and I asked Jessica to scroll down on the agenda now. I've asked the staff, and they've started doing a budgetary impact for every item. And I know you saw it, Ms. Arts, and the rest of the commissioners, but I want to make sure the staff sees that's the analysis of what the budgetary impact will be on every item that comes before us now. So you can see there that there's no required money from us, just, again, in-kind services.
Hopefully an increase.
I move to approve TDC's submission. First, were there any citizens who want to speak? Okay. Then I move to approve TDC's submission of the 2011-12 Visit Florida Cultural Heritage and Nature Tourism Marketing Grant application and the Education Grant application.
Thank you so much.
Second it.
Motion by Ms. Art, seconded by Mr. Moore. Any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 15. Thank you, Pam.
Was that mine, item
Yes.
15?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, given the state of our economy now and my own research on impact fees, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we advertise for public hearing with the amendment as written. In other words, eliminating all impact fees.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Merritt to approve to advertise and hold a public hearing to consider adopting amendments to the comprehensive impact fee ordinance and set it at 0.
Correct, as written.
Is that, okay? And that's seconded
And
by
that's a
Mr. Moore.
second. I have a second.
Ms. Hart?
And I'm in support with having the public hearings and the ordinance as written. I don't have any issues with that. But before we have the first public hearing, I would very much like to have a workshop to do the following things. One, to listen to your concerns about the impact fee study so I can better understand what those are. And also, so that we as a board can fully consider the pros and cons of eliminating the impact fees. And specifically, I would like to review data from the county's recent experiment, the moratorium that was in place for about a year, and look at the data during that moratorium compared to the periods immediately preceding and immediately following. I think that will be instructive. What, if any, effect did we see on building permits, growth, jobs, those kinds of things? I would also like to hear from each of the offices, departments, and divisions that would be impacted by the loss of impact fees revenue. I would like to know what they would otherwise use this money for, and can they do without it or postpone it for a long period of time. If they can't, where else are they going to find the money? What other sources or options do they have? So that we as a board know exactly what we are eliminating, not just this year, but in years to come. And I'm confident that this proposal has been made for the very best of reasons. But given all the reading that I've been doing, I'm also convinced that it's not going to accomplish what people seem to think it's going to accomplish. And instead, I think this is going to seriously harm every taxpayer in Wakulla County, every business, and every homeowner. And I would like to have an opportunity at the workshop to make that case, so that we can all really look at what will this do. Is it going to accomplish what we want? Is it going to have some other effects that we may not be all fully appreciating at this time? So I would be grateful if you would amend your motion to first include a workshop before we go to the public hearing.
It's up to you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Ms. Arts, I'm not willing to do that. I think we can discuss those things at the public hearing. Those are all good points. I don't want to be put in a position of trying to have to defend. A lot of my evidence is anecdotal from what I've seen over the years growing up here. I don't want to delay it any longer. If the growth comes back and we need to address those items, certainly at that time. I don't think that's a problem right now, but my motion stands.
by not doing it in a workshop, the public hearings are always held at the beginning. So we're going to have, to the extent the chairman allows the board and the people who want to participate to speak. It's just people who are waiting here on other items are going to have to wait some period of time, and I was hoping in a workshop we could also have maybe a little bit more relaxed discussion maybe than sometimes we have here. And the other thing I would like to comment on, I hope that this board, when making really important decisions, does not just rely on personal opinion, but looks hard at data, relies on experts. And so I hope, I'm going to come to these public hearings or workshop, and I'm going to invite others to come with numbers to try and, provide support for statements that I make. And I really hope that that you all also will come, and if you say, well, this will create more jobs, that you'll have some support for that other than just that you think it's so, or that it's your hope or belief that will happen. Because these have been around in a lot of places. There's a lot of data on what they do, what they don't do.
Now, I have done a bunch of research. I think one of the first meetings I stated that I was going to be looking at it, and I have. I've taken the actual calculations and put in more realistic assumptions, and my conclusion is that growth not only pays for itself, it subsidizes the people that have lived there a long time. Save Our Homes caps the millage rate or the tax you can charge on older homes. We have an MSBU that new people pay. We have gas taxes that people pay. If you back all those numbers back to present worth value, they offset the impact. So that's how I didn't willy-nilly arrive at this conclusion. It's,
Well, and I'm very interested in seeing that. So I hope at the public hearings, if we don't have a workshop, you'll take us through that. And the last thing, this is just each board has to decide how it's going to act. I know our chairman has asked that we function as a team, and I've only been on a board for 2 years, but I think the last 2 years it's been more the custom that if a commissioner has requested a workshop, that the others usually go along with that request. So I'm just asking again. I would appreciate a workshop.
It stands, I'm sorry.
I know.
Certainly no offense.
And I think we can beat it out when we have the public hearing. I agree with Randy. Let's try to do it in that setting. I'm prepared to hear both sides, and based on what I hear there, cast a vote. I'm not swayed either way right now. I'm in the middle, and I want to hear what's best for the county, and in the end, whatever that is, if it's best for the, to get our economy cranking again, then I'm gonna be on the side of Randy, and if it's not, then I'm gonna be on the other side. So let's wait and see. I agree we can do it at the public hearing. Yes.
I do just want, as we move forward with this, even though it's we're moving forward, when it comes up before the public hearing, we will be able to implement the entire impact fee removal, or if we wanted to, we could still leave some of them. I would like to again reiterate, I'm hoping to do this in an effort to help stimulate commercial businesses being built. A few of these fees do not apply to commercial businesses, for instance, Parks and Rec and the library fee, which could help us expand our library facilities, which is being discussed at some point in the future, or expand our Parks and Rec to buy things like, I don't know, we can buy land, well, we probably can't. Or we can't buy things like the land for the Historical Society, who needs the land. Those are fees that are a minor amount of money on new houses being built that could help us do some of those things. Just to think about that, I'm still in favor of. I'm okay with those currently.
Yeah, one of the things that bothers me, and I mentioned this today when I met with the staff to get ready for tonight, is the amount of money that's out there. The impact fee money has a
Time limit
on it of, I think, 7 or 8 years. And there's a lot of money out there that we still haven't spent. So if we, it's one thing if it was zero and we were spending as fast as we could bring it in, but we have money that's been standing on the books for years that we haven't spent for the library and Parks and Rec and lots of other categories. So that makes me think that, maybe we can do without it for a while and try to jumpstart the economy. I want to help folks out there that's out of work. I mean, it's growing, guys. We talked about this in my church yesterday. It's like we've been isolated from all this that's going on in our nation for the last couple of years, but now it's hit Wakulla. I mean, really hit us. And people are losing jobs every day, and we got to help them. And I'll do whatever it takes to do that. And this may be one of the ways we have to do it. So,
and then also in full disclosure, I am in the construction business. This isn't going to benefit me, and I did ask our attorney about issues like this. And Alan, I agree with you completely. If the impact fee is fair, maybe when we get growth starts coming back a little bit. But there's two parts to this. One is the economy. Once we get back on some firm footing, $400 or $500 a year ain't gonna make a big difference to the library. If we start getting some real housing starts, look at it again, bring it back. I agree with you 100%. And it wasn't that big a deal a few years ago, and everybody was building houses like crazy. They didn't mind paying $1,500, $1,600 impact fee. But this is a totally different place. I mean, I see it firsthand all the time.
Okay. Any citizens? Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Merritt and seconded by Mr. Moore. All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. And that concludes the consent agenda items, and we'll move on now to the planning and zoning, number 16.
Okay, item 16 this evening is an application for final plat. This is FP 10-02, and the request is to create a 4-lot residential subdivision to be known as Old Brimner Place, Phase 1. This property is located on the west side of Old Bethel Road. I think we're kind of loading up, it looks like, yeah, we're loading up the PowerPoint there. It's on the west side of Old Bethel Road, and it's across from the existing Windsong subdivision. The property owner is Ben Boynton, Ian Boynton Investments LLC, and the agents are Mr. Boynton and Edwin Brown and Associates.
Move to conduct the final public hearing and approve the application for final plat FP 10-02 based upon the recommendation of the Planning Commission, the recommendation of staff, and the findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the board and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Brock.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Merritt.
Mr. Chairman, we have some housekeeping items to take care of before we get in. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so there's a couple things we need to do. The first is, in accordance with Section 24.01 of the County Code, each commission needs to disclose any contacts received from interested parties or their representatives or lobbyists concerning this application, or any personal investigation or written communications you may have received. I do have one email. If any of you have anything else you need to disclose, now would be an appropriate time.
Ms. Hart, just start on that end and work this way.
I don't have anything more than what I said the last time this came to us, and that was included in that.
I have nothing.
Nothing?
I'm familiar with the area.
No. Okay.
Okay. Now, if there is anyone here who's going to be testifying or speaking to the matter, please stand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. And just so you know, you will be sworn in for both items tonight.
Okay. Does staff need to briefly state their qualifications?
I think you've given the staff report. If there are any things you'd like to add about the notices, or that one? No, we need to get in the record. Okay. For the record. Let's see, this advertisement for this public hearing occurred in the Wakulla News, and that happened on December 16th, 2010. Planning Commission approved the application for preliminary plat of this development back on December 13th, 2010, and heard this item on January 10th, 2011.
Mr. Chairman, are these items that Lindsay's going over in our books? Are we simply restating these for the benefit of the public, or?
Yes.
Pretty much.
In the interest of time.
we'll try to be speedy. Just quickly for the record, we note that this property has a future land use map designation of Rural 2, which does allow one dwelling unit per 5 acres of land without central water connection. This property is going to be utilizing private wells as well as on-site performance-based septic systems. This property received a change of zoning back on December 6, 2010, which the board adopted, changing the property from agriculture to the RR5 Rural Residential Zoning District. Again, this property is on the paved portion of Old Bethel Road, which makes it eligible under the comprehensive plan for a division of this nature. And these 5-acre lots are consistent with adjacent lots located within the Winsong subdivision, again across the street from this property. Signage was posted on the site indicating the final plat request, and we have not received any written responses to the notice. Staff's recommending option 1 this evening, which is approval of the application for final plat FP 10-02. Noting that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, land development code, and the neighboring parcels. We're here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay. Questions? Ms. Arts? No? Mr. Moore, any questions? Questions?
I have a question for Mr. Boynton
Mr.
when
Boynton,
we
do you
get
have
to that.
Come on up, she has some questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hello.
Some of this is unplatted, but your plan is eventually to develop the rest of the property, is that correct?
There's 2 phases. The first phase lies totally along Old Bethel Road that does not require improvements. The second phase would require a paved road to come off of Old Bethel and go back into the back section, which opens up an additional 5-acre tracts. The reason that we did not do all of them simultaneously was because I don't have I'm using the cash from the front forward to finance the infrastructure of the back.
Right. I figured that was probably what you were doing. I wondered if you did look at this subdivision as a whole, though, is this the way you would design it?
Actually, I was, if we had water down Old Bethel, I'd be 2-acre tracts, but since there's no water, then I'm using 5-acre tracts. It was initially 1 unit per 2 acres, and I've expanded it to 1 unit per 5 acres.
And I wasn't so much talking about the lot size or the water, but all 4 of these lots will have driveways exiting onto Old Bethel.
Yes, ma'am.
And then when you build the back lots, they're going to be looking at the back of these other lots rather than, like a subdivision that might have homes facing in or whatever.
They do have, the lots do face in.
Oh, okay.
They do face in. They will not be facing the back of the other lots. You have a road that goes in that I'm building, and all those lots come to that road, so they'll each have driveways coming into that drive. You have 2 of the lots will have a common boundary with the lots that face Old Bethel. There will be a common boundary. Of course, you would have to have that, but that's typical of any subdivision you do. There's not going to be anything that's going to be abnormal.
Okay, so instead of the driveways coming out to 4 driveways coming out to Old Bethel, the driveways are coming here to a dirt road?
This road here will come.
Okay.
This road here will come on.
He's speaking to a mic.
In here. I'm sorry. This road will continue to come up, and it'll be a cul-de-sac, and then these lots will all come to this particular road. So you'll have a common line here and a common line here, but these all will enter and exit off of the road that I'm building. So this is a 10-acre tract, and these are 3 5-acre tracts. So this does go from the Old Bethel Road to the very back boundary line. And then, like I say, these lots will come out, they'll be split, they go like this. And I think as I recall, let me think.
I'm following.
Yeah. This is one track here, not 2. So you got 1, and then you got 1, and I forgot how we did that, but we spent quite a bit of time laying it out.
Okay, thank you.
Any more comments? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Brock and seconded by Mr. Merritt. All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And item 17.
Okay, item 17 this evening is an application for final plat. It's FP 10-03. This is to create a 5-lot residential subdivision to be known as Bloxham Plantation Phase 1. This property is located on the north side of Zion Hill Road, and it's west of Crawfordville Highway. The owner is Ben C. Boynton Family, FLP, and the agent is Ben Boynton and Edwin Brown and Associates.
Move to conduct the final public hearing and approve the application for final plat FP 10-03 based upon the recommendations of the Planning Commission, the recommendation of staff, and the findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the board and any evidence submitted at this hearing hereon.
Okay, motion by Mr. Brock to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Merritt.
Is there a talk, or?
Do you need to, Heather, do you?
You don't have to if you don't want to.
Swear anybody in here?
Oh.
Everyone, I confirmed that everyone is still sworn in when I swore them in the first time. It's related. Oh, there's more people?
There's one gentleman here, Brian Sharp. I don't, who's Brian?
That's me.
You want to stand up and be sworn in, sir, if you're going to speak on this?
Sure.
Okay.
I just have more questions than...
That's okay. You need to stand up still.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Brian, we'll get to you here momentarily. Thank you.
Is it time for us to? I got something I want to say.
Go ahead, Mr. Merritt.
I was contacted by Joel about Zion Hill Road, where the sewer line was installed. It's kind of rough condition. I don't know if anything has changed out there. I called Cleve's office. Cleve, I don't know if y'all issued a utility permit for that, or if the sewer's been finalized, or... Okay. I want to be sure that gets the road restored to pre-development conditions. I think that was his only concern, and I think it's a valid one. That's the only thing I got to say.
Any other ex parte disclosures from the board members?
I too contacted Cleve about the next day after he started digging. We were a little frustrated that the dirt was in the middle of the right-of-way, but he quickly got that removed. But I agree with Randy, it needs to get back to original condition, the swell and all on that side.
Just the email that I gave you pertains to this one. Okay.
Okay, any more comments? You have any more for us?
Yeah, just for the record, this was advertised for public hearing in the Wakulla News on December 16th, 2010. We did post 2 signs on the property indicating the request, and we have not received any written responses to those notices, although I believe staff was contacted with the same concerns echoed by the board about the right-of-way and returning the property to pre-development condition. For the record, I note that the Planning Commission did hear this item back on January 10th, 2011, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval of this item. It should be noted additionally that this is a Rural 3 land use designation, which allows a greater density than is currently being proposed on the property, a 1-to-1, 1 unit per 1 acre. But this property is part of the special area plan number 1 in our comprehensive plan. When this overall parent tract underwent a land use change, there were certain conditions placed upon the property and its future development, including a set aside of a natural space area, and the Flowers subdivision was the first part of the development of this overall large parcel. The board heard back on December 6, 2010, the change of zoning for this particular piece of property from Ag to RR5, the Rural Residential Zoning District. And the property does have central water and sewer that will be provided to the site. If the board has any specific questions for staff, we're here to answer them.
I got a question, Lindsay. Was this final plat bonded? Is that what the copy is in here?
It was.
So the bond's still in effect, so we have some recourse to be sure that the road is fixed, I guess is my point. Has the planning department stopped accepting irrevocable letters of credit now for final plats?
We need to we need to revise the code.
I think that's very important. We've been caught a couple times on those irrevocable letters of credit that just simply expire, whereas a bond, my understanding is more permanent. So just something to look at in the future.
Good idea.
We also need to change the amount of the bonds. 2 times is probably no longer adequate, depending on how long they sit there. We really need to up that amount.
Now, you're talking about the maintenance bond or the performance bond to complete the project?
The performance bond to complete the projects.
Okay. Ms. Arts, you had questions?
No, I think I just have the same concern before. I think if we were looking at this as a whole right now, and you weren't trying to avoid putting in a road, I think there might be a little better design to it, but I understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Okay. Mr. Sharp, you had some questions? Come on, sir, to the mic here, please. Just give us your name and address, and we'll try to answer your questions.
Sure. Brian Sharp, 27 Zion Hill. So my concerns have pretty much been answered, and that was about the swales being returned to their original state, which it seems that there's been an effort to do that here and just over the weekend, in fact. But the swales, in my opinion, if they were to stay where they are not even remotely deep enough to handle the water that flows through that area. My property has flooding issues at the present time, and I don't necessarily need any help from across the street, which water is coming across the street, or at least it was a couple weeks ago in a rainstorm we had. So it's coming onto the lot next to me, which is vacant and wooded, which will take up some of the water, but still, water is coming, across the street, down my drive, onto my property. Just want to make sure that that's going to be handled and addressed. So that's it, basically.
I'll ask Mr. Fleming to follow through on that, I guess. That's his bailiwick.
You said your address was 22 Zion Hill?
27.
27. Okay, you got that, Cleve? Okay. All right, and
I'm sorry, one more issue. There was the matter of the power lines that are the power poles that are on that swell line as well. It seems that a few of them have been, hit, clipped. They're kind of splintered at the bottom. The ground wire on the pole that feeds my property across the street has come loose. So, there was dirt piled up pretty high on the power poles itself. So I took a shovel, took the dirt away. And you can see that they've been splintered, clipped with, tractors, dozer, backhoe, whatever it was, excavator. So that was a concern also.
okay. We'll Cleve, you can look into all that and tell us. We'll get to the bottom of it.
Okay.
And Ben, you had a card. Did you want to say anything?
The reason that the swales were not finished is because I'm still doing an ear test. When that is completed, of course, everything will be taken back to its pre-construction. And I have shot the elevations of all the ditch. I know what to bring it back to. The code says that you have to have 3 foot of cover over the sewer line. That's the main reason I shot it, was to make sure that there is the proper cover over the sewer. If you go out and look at the road, you'll see that I've got it pretty well graded to the point that it does drain into the ditch. It has drained into the ditch from day one. I will dispute what the other fellow said. I have never seen the water go across the road. There's a swell, there's a crown on the road that basically keeps it from going over to their side, but that's it doesn't matter. That's fine. It's just that I have done, I think, a good job on doing what I've done, and I have not hit any power poles. I'll meet anybody out and talk to them about that. Thanks.
Only thing I'd say, Ben, is, I was frustrated. I went up there when I was called about the dirt in the middle of the road, and it was in the middle of the road. You guys excavated the dirt out, and you set it in the road.
I did.
We can't do that, Ben.
Well, let me explain that. When you have an excavator and you have power lines, sometimes for the safety of everybody concerned, and I took it out and I put the dirt off the road that day. I followed the excavator.
You didn't put a sign up, Ben. I mean, it was unsafe what you did. I'm just saying,
Okay.
in the future, you can't do it like that.
Maybe a smaller excavator.
Okay.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that's the end of the planning and zoning items. And we'll move on to general business. Item number 19.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item is we're requesting board approval of the initial assessment resolution for the solid waste management and disposal assessment. This agenda item sets the preliminary assessment rates. This is in follow-up to the board workshop that you had in December where you discussed reconsidering the solid waste assessment in the amount of $112 per dwelling unit. This would set the preliminary assessment rate, establish the public hearing. At the present, the resolution reflects that that public hearing will be at your second meeting in March, and allows you to provide notices in accordance with the statutory procedures outlined in Section 197 of Florida statutes. This merely sets the preliminary rates. The method of apportionment, which is per dwelling unit, directs the provision of these notices. It does not set the final assessment, that amount. If you approve this tonight, it merely keeps the process moving to your final public hearing in March.
I'll make a motion to approve to adopt the initial assessment resolution for solid waste management and disposal services.
Okay, motion by Mr. Merritt to approve.
I second it.
Second by Mr. Moore.
I got a couple.
Okay.
If you want to go first.
Yeah, I was going to ask, and Randy beat me to it, that's probably best. I would actually like to see if we might be able to table these to the first meeting in May. That still gives us adequate time to deal with this one and the next one. We could still have the public hearing, do the mail-outs, in time to have the money in our budget for next year. We would know. I talked to Tim earlier today about what timeline he needs and what timeline Heather needs. And that would give us more time it would give me more time because I'm still trying to figure out the best way to talk about and discuss curbside solid waste and recycling. And that would just give us more time. And none of this would change in the next 2 months, but it would give us another couple months to talk about it.
I don't have any problem with that. I mean, if this would go into effect till October anyway, is that correct? Or when?
Statutory deadline to have this, your final public hearing done and voted on in order to get on the tax bill, which would go out in November, is September 15th.
And if we did if we did these items in May, the first meeting in May, we could do the mailing and we could have the hearing in early June, which would give you time to have it in our final budget discussions for next year. Correct, Tim?
Yes. Budget's not due to the board till July 15th.
So that would give us time to have all of that.
Okay. I'm fine. It's the pleasure of the board. Mr. Mayor, you have a motion. You want to withdraw that motion?
I'll withdraw it. I mean, I don't mind if Alan wants to look at it some more.
Okay, so the motion is withdrawn, and we'll entertain another motion.
I move to table these items to the first meeting in May, this one and the next one.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Brock to table both general business items 19 and 20 until first meeting in May. Second by Mr. Merritt. Ms. Arch?
I just want to make sure, because I know last year we ended up with it failing and no time to come up with options or alternatives, so...
We would still have 6 months.
Okay.
I don't think it makes any difference. I mean...
Or less, not quite 6 months.
If it fails again, then we just stay the way we are. I mean...
No,
I got a lot to say about this issue, but I'm going to wait till it comes up.
Well, what I was trying to say, it failed and people were throwing out other alternatives that I think might have passed, but it was too late because we couldn't advertise and pursue any of those other alternatives. But if you think we're okay with this timeline...
Well, you would have then 4 months to come up with it. If you were looking at another alternative, as far as an assessment amount, you would probably want to take care of it that night, given that you'd sent notices out to everyone. But other alternatives, you would still have time.
Okay.
The only time issues pressing on you are, one, you need to close your landfill, obviously, and two, we do have issues with our regulatory agencies that we need to correct. I don't think this delay tonight would significantly impact that because if this goes in, even if you approve this tonight and then approve the assessment at your public hearing next month, you're not going to have revenue for it until the tax bill goes out, so.
Heather, this isn't going to affect either the grant, I guess, or monies we're receiving to help construct the new transfer station. Are there any milestones on that we have to meet to still get that money, or?
We're in a holding pattern right now with USDA.
I don't want to jeopardize that either, because if we, don't put off making a decision.
But I just heard you say that shouldn't jeopardize that.
I wouldn't expect it would. I don't think so. I mean, if you don't do the assessment at all, which is within your purview, but if you don't, what USDA has told us is that we need to resubmit that application, and the amount of that grant may very well be diminished.
Could you just double check on that and make sure that our inaction is not jeopardizing? I don't mind waiting as long as it's not going to hurt.
And now, from the meeting that we had where I went up and met with them, the only thing that should take that away from us, as long as we're discussing it, is if the federal government removed the funding, which no one anticipates happening.
Right. There's no definitive yes or no. They're in a holding pattern with us. They know we're moving. I told them we've
Doesn't mean it won't happen.
started the discussion of an assessment, so they're walking with us. But like the Commissioner said, if the federal government decides to pull the funding, I mean, they've got a big pool of money that they want to loan out, so I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon, but there's always that possibility. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
But if you want, Commissioner, I mean, you can call Mary.
Yeah, I'll just get another reach out.
Shoot me an email.
I will.
I get them all the time.
If it's an issue, then we need to get it back on the agenda.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, if it's an issue, please bring it up sooner.
I will, absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Roberts, you had a card to speak?
Larry Roberts, Sop Choppy. Where do we stand on this right now? I'm not real sure what the motion is.
It's tabled till May.
Tabled till May. Well, I'll speak very briefly. As you recall, and three of you do, last fall, when this was brought up, there were a lot of people there, and there were some real horror stories told about even that $112 that was going to devastate some of those folks. So hopefully the people will be aware, keep this in mind, and if they do have something to say at the meeting, to be here. I just wanted people out there in TV land watch this closely. Thank you.
And I agree with Mr. Roberts. I'd encourage everyone to really look into this. A deal killer for me would be if they didn't have the low-income exemption. Exactly, that would be a deal killer for me. I don't mind if I pay a little more so someone else that can't afford it doesn't pay at all. I have no problem with that. I mean, I'm not a socialist or anything, but,
And there will be a public notice before the hearing mailed to every household in Wakulla County.
Which, that brings me to a good point, Alan. I wrote that on my notes here. When we do go forward with this notice, I would like some language in there mentioning the fact that there is a reduction for low income. I didn't see it mentioned anywhere in the mail out.
You want the hardship program mentioned in the mail?
Yes, because when people receive this in the mail, I want them to be able to look at it and say, all right, I qualify for a hardship exemption. I think to me, that's a deal killer.
Okay.
Is that you all good with us putting?
So we have a motion to table both 19 and 20. Can we do those in both one motion? Heather, is that fine?
That's fine.
Is there both? Okay. All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And the next is item 21.
Commissioner, the next item is just a housekeeping item. It's our contract with Appalachia Regional Planning Council to do our hazardous waste assessment. It's an annual contract that the chairman needs to sign. If there's any questions, just
motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Merritt to approve, seconded by Ms. Arts. Help me understand what they do again.
We had a discussion with Commissioner Arts about that actually today.
I think they go around to all the small quantity generators, right? And they make a database up and report it. Rich Turner is the one that does it for the county.
Is it something we got to have?
Thank you.
Is it a requirement?
Yeah, it's by statute. It's required. It's state mandate.
So this is one that it's passed down to us to pay for.
Yes.
Okay. I guess we got a choice then.
I think they
coordinate somewhat like to cut. If you're talking about cutting, this is where I'd like to cut.
I asked our county attorney today a question, and my question was, if the law requires it, I have to do it. If the law doesn't require it, I'm not going to do it.
There is a statute on point here.
Very good.
Okay?
I think another duty they do is coordinate with the fire department, so if there is a fire, like at the Trice Lane office, for example, they know that there's a certain amount of mouth on, or whatever it is out there.
Ain't nothing out there.
I was thrown by the word generators. I was thinking of like that generate electricity
No.
when you have power outages.
may
These
burn.
are businesses that deal with or produce hazardous waste in small quantities.
You get dry cleaners, stuff like that.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Merritt, seconded by Ms. Arts to approve. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's take a 4-minute break. We'll come back and then we'll have citizens to be heard, if that's okay with everybody. Hey, Doug.
Go ahead and sign that. You need an office unlocked. That's at my door, which they're going to steal something and there they have it.
Okay. Get everybody to be quiet, be seated, please. I appreciate it. First, thank you. First citizen to be heard is Bill Russell.
Miss Welch has something over there for me. I wanted to talk a few minutes about this fire truck issue. It has gone on and it has gotten really, really silly, and I'd like to just stop it and talk about it from a fireman's point of view, not any name calling, finger pointing, anything else.
Taking it a while.
Hey, your time's running right now, Mr. Russell, so if you need to talk, go ahead and talk.
Okay. This truck is just too good of a deal for the county not to use. We bought it, you put it in service, will not cost you 1 penny of general fund money, not 1 penny. The truck will make it where firefighters can be safer using their job, doing their job, and the entire community will be safer. It can do things that nothing else in the county can do right now. Is that going to open?
I'm trying. Thank you.
She had no trouble opening it this afternoon, and now it wants to be slow, I guess. Tanker accidents, they could happen anywhere. They had one today at the White House, on White House grounds. It was, luckily it was diesel fuel, not gasoline, and it was only a hazmat cleanup job instead of a firefighting job. I'm just asking you, commissioners, to think about this. There's no reason not to put this truck in service. It will do things, like I said, that no other truck will do. And it will make firefighters' jobs much safer. And if that opens up later on, will it have to, will you put the CD in?
Yeah, I'm scared. That ain't got nothing to do with it.
I don't think it's going to read that right now either.
I'm sorry.
I don't think it'll read that right now. Stuck.
Well, if that happens to show up, you'll see firefighters try to put out a tanker fire with a hose line, and 6 of them, and all their lives are in danger. And you'll also see a picture of the truck that we bought. on a tanker, and you cannot even see the tanker for the wall of water it's putting out. You can't read the tanker. You can see it, but you can't read the writing on it or anything because of the wall of water it's putting out. I regret that this didn't show up. You commissioners, all 5 of you, you could stop this thing tonight. You can vote to put the truck in service. It can be in service tomorrow, and it doesn't cost 1 penny of your general fund. Thank you.
Maybe you could just email it to us.
Okay, Howard Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm pleased to see the budgeting effects and costs being implemented into the agenda items, and I hope also that we can have a running tally of what is being spent over the months from various funds. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Larry Roberts.
Larry Roberts, Sop Chappie. 2 items I want to address very briefly. One is that fire truck down in Cloutney Bay. It did not, best I understand from reading the paper, and that's all I know is what I read in the paper, is that does not cost anybody anything. It was all materialized with the hard work of a few people that got out and found funds, and they bought it. We owe them thanks for what they've done, and the contributors what they've done. The only problem is that, well, I don't know what the problem is. There is no problem I can see, except just no good deed will go unpunished. My next thing is the impact fees. When you have that public hearing, I do ask that you have Ms. Encinosa give the presentation, or at least a brief of the presentation that she gave back when she was the attorney that came up with those figures that Mr. Merritt don't seem to have any confidence in. I have all manner of confidence in her numbers. She is the expert in that area that's here tonight, probably, yeah. She is the expert, and we should listen to her. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Luther Council.
Commissioners, Luther Council, 1242 Wakulla Road. I have 2 things I want to bring to you real quick. One was the fire truck. I think it's a good piece of equipment. I think it can save lives. I think you should go ahead and accept what it is. You didn't have to spend any money for it, just the insurance. The second issue is it has to do with some of the stuff that we were talking about reducing some of the expenditures. Thank you.
Okay, Renee Calhoun.
I know my PowerPoint's not going to work, but I did provide a copy of all the documents that I'm going to be referring to for all the commissioners. They're on Jessica's desk. Renee Calhoun, 211 Bettywood Circle. I'm concerned this board has signaled it's willing to ignore Wakulla County policies and procedures in order to anoint Tim Barton as county administrator. Ben Pingree hired Tim Barton as an assistant, and he was not vetted for the administrator job, and just because one commissioner likes him enough to rent him a room in his garage does not qualify Tim Barton to be county administrator. The fact interim county administrator Barton has gone along with verbal agreements between Ben Pingree and Lindsay Stevens, allowing her to work part-time while knowing one entire department under her command is failing, speaks volumes about his judgment, or rather the lack thereof. I have provided each of you a copy of all the documents I am referring to. The verbal agreement between Pingree and Stevens that allows Assistant Administrator Stevens to work in the office for 2 hours, 2 days a week, and get paid for 16, and then allows her to stay home the other 3 days a week, quote, telecommuting, while receiving her full $1,400 a week paycheck is ridiculous, Commissioners. I would like to know if this perk is only for the Assistant County Administrator, or do you plan on letting all county employees that have children work from home? County policy states employees shall utilize all accrued annual or sick leave for any or all of the 12 weeks under the Family Medical Leave Act. It also states no annual or sick leave will be accrued during that leave. This is also stated in on a personnel action form I received today from Lindsay Stevens. As you can see from the documents from the clerk's office, County Assistant Administrator Stevens accrued both sick and vacation time while on leave without pay. County policy also states no holiday pay will be paid while on leave without pay. As you can see from the documents from the clerk's office, she received 7 days of holiday pay while on leave without pay. And as you can see from the timesheets, Frank Baxter approved 1 for Veterans Day and 2 for Thanksgiving holiday, and Deb DeBose approved 2 for Christmas and 2 for New Year's. The personal policy clearly states that you can't do that. I've discussed the fact that Lindsay Stevens used only 3 sick days between August of 2007 and February 2010 with current and former employees, and all of them have stated that she or her children were so sick so often it was hard to contact her at times. I also recall between June and August how shocked I was that Lindsay Stevens was on vacation even though one entire department in her charge was imploding. I don't see that on her timesheets. Alleged theft or fraud issues that involve thousands of dollars is something this board cannot ignore. An internal investigation is unacceptable and is tantamount to getting a fox to guard the henhouse. Since I have found what seems to be a systemic problem and includes other employees, this board should request a full investigation be done by the White Collar Crime Unit of the Wakulla County Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department can subpoena records, get security information.
Please.
What's that?
Your time's up.
Not even to finish my sentence?
Ma'am.
Okay.
Next speaker is Steve Fultz.
Good evening, Commissioner. Steve Fultz, 35 Montecoupe Circle. I prepared a quick PowerPoint here regarding this fire truck. It's entitled Fire Apparatus Benefits in Comparison. We have some new capability with the truck that we purchased with our own funds from the OBFD. It is also a very highly diverse piece of equipment that the county currently doesn't have. This vehicle came from the city of Tallahassee. It was on duty and being used just prior to us getting it by the Tallahassee Fire Department at Tallahassee International Airport. Funding for this truck, this is a Walters. It was purchased by the OPFD and again with no county funds whatsoever. The most recent new purchase from the county was a Rosenbauer. It's called Engine 12, and it was purchased with taxpayer funds. We're going to go over some of the capability differences between the Walters and the Rosenbauer. The Rosenbauer is a very fine piece of equipment. Number one, if you look at the water tank capacity, the Walters is much larger. You look at the foam tank capacity, it's much larger. The Walters happens to be a very unique all-wheel drive vehicle, which is imperative when getting to some areas with only two-wheel drive trucks. I believe most, if not every other fire apparatus in the county is only two-wheel drive. There may be a brush truck or two that's four-wheel drive, but certainly nothing the size of this machine. This machine is also the only twin-engine vehicle that would be in the entire fleet. It has a separate engine to run the pump and a separate engine to drive the vehicle itself. It has a tremendous high water traverse rescue capability. As somebody that personally was stranded in Ocklackney Bay during Hurricane Dennis, I can tell you this will easily, and the manufacturer touts its ability to tread through 4 to 5 feet of water, flowing water at that. You can put 30 to 50 people on top of this vehicle. It has handrails so that they can hang on as you go slow. Single man operation. Only truck that can pump water with a single firefighter right from the cab. You also have, because you're in the cab, you have the safety of the cab. You don't have to be that exposed to the fire as you're fighting it. It has an automatic bumper turret, sprays water all by itself, oscillates. It also has under truck protection to protect any fuel or anything that would get underneath the truck and endanger the crew. Taxpayer cost,
The Walters, $637. The Rosenbauer, $335,000. To give you some perspective, median home cost in Wakulla County is right around $102,000. Insurance. We only ask that the county provide yearly insurance of $637. If not, we will pay the insurance.
Okay, Mr. Fultz, we're done. Okay, we'll move on to that's all the citizens to be heard. Next item is Commissioner agenda items, Commissioner Arts.
Thank you. I am loving being the lead commissioner on the community center. So I wanted to update you on what's happened so far and provide you with some information about that. We had a survey that people were encouraged to fill out. Last year, we had 692 people fill out the survey, either online or in pencil and paper. And I've given you, in the attachments, is a report of those surveys. And I hope you'll spend some time looking at it, because it's really informative in terms of what are the kinds of facilities and activities that people want to see there, what are their preferences. And right now, that information is being used by me and staff and others with the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth for planning purposes. I have recruited some professionals who are willing to draft a conceptual master plan at no charge. And so we're going to take this information and try and create a visual, actually several visuals, so that people can look at what this site might one day build out to. And that'll make it even easier, I think, for people to continue to have input into what they most want to see on the site. So that process is underway, and in my item I've kind of lined out the timeline, and I'm expecting in early June to be able to bring back to this board a master plan that has been vetted out in the community for you all to really look at. And you know, it's entirely the board's prerogative what they want to do with it, but it's you know, that's what I'm working on.
Ms. Arches, I'm sorry, is your master plan proceeding? Are you going to actually bring a plan? And I tell you my concern is I noticed the swimming pool is number one. I don't know if anyone has really looked into long-term operational and maintenance costs of that pool. I mean, are we proceeding down the road that, yes, we're going to build a pool since it was number one? I guess that's my root question.
Well, at this point, we aren't doing cost analyses or anything like that. This is really just more of a vision and kind of thing. What would the community like to see on the site? We do have some funding that will need to be spent by November of 2012. We have a legislative appropriation to construct a community center. So some kind of building is going to have to go on the site. What I don't want to do is have us just plop a building down and then eliminate the possibility for any number of other things that, if we would position the building in another place, we would still have those options open. And I think in my conversations with Doug Jones, even though there's strong community support for a swimming pool, that's probably a fairly way off in terms of any kind of feasibility. So something else we're going to be doing with the master plan is identifying phases. And as part of it, we'll be looking at priorities, and we can do some cost analyses and look at possible funding sources, and it'll just be a way of collecting information that I think will be useful to the board to make decisions.
Is this money you're speaking of the money that was originally intended to purchase the property, but then we found out there was a non-eligible expense, so now we have the money still there. And when you say building, there's 2 buildings on there on the site already. Are you talking about building another building on the site, gymnasium, whatever?
It's my understanding, and I'll defer to Tim, that this money has to be to build a community center. It couldn't be used for the land, and I don't think it can be used to renovate the existing building. I think we have to build something new there, is my understanding. And yes, we either build something or we lose the appropriation.
We could also build walking trails, or it had to be a physical structure.
This is an old appropriation from former Congressman Boyd, and it's very vague, and it comes from Congress, so it's hard to change and it's hard to really get a read. It just says to build a community center. So it originally
one could construe it construction of.
But my conversation with them is that they want you to build something. So I don't know.
They're construing it pretty narrowly.
Yeah, they're thinking of a building, something to that effect. So I'm thinking an expansion of the current building.
I mean, it could be a theater, whatever.
They wouldn't.
Something that's heating and cooled, I guess. Basically.
They wouldn't even.
Gym and indoor swimming pool.
Expand it to an acquisition of a community center, so that they're taking a very narrow interpretation.
How are we paying for this building now?
It's already been paid for.
Okay, so it's paid for. So the only cost we have right now is maintenance.
Yes.
That's right.
But there's some law that says we have to build this next building?
Well, you received a legislative appropriation of about $492,000.
$492,000 we either turn down or we can build something.
You can't build much for $192,000.
400.
Oh, 400.
You can't build lots for $400,000.
Well, but there's also some additional funding, and the purpose of this item is I barely mentioned the funding. There are also some other funds, some building funds set aside from sales tax and impact fees and whatever. It can probably add almost another $200,000 to that. But right now, we aren't making any decisions anytime in the immediate future about what we're going to build. Those decisions will need to be made by the end of this calendar year. And that's one of the reasons I want to continue this, community-wide planning process now to help us when we get to the point at the end of this year of trying to decide what are we going to build, because the people who are working on the master plan will have they'll do some cost figures for us and let us know what we could build.
Maybe one thing you may want to think about, I know we're going to have a workshop on this, but if the funds are used for construction, maybe we could do some sort of, whatever the building is, make it solar powered in some way and be a good demonstration, since it's not costing us anything, and that would also offset the long-term costs. It may be neat to have a on-grid tie solar, whatever, especially if it's free.
Ms. Arts will love you for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I suggested it.
But Ms. Arts, we need to be ready to go online as soon as we get the courthouse back to where it belongs. And
right.
So, I'd like to see some turnkey operation that comes in and takes over, and then they be able to advise us about, what's, like Randy suggested, what's the long-term cost if we had a pool or a gym, and can it pay for itself?
And that's what staff, Doug Jones primarily, is working on. After our last workshop, the next step was to prepare an RFP to invite organizations like the YMCA, Boys and Girls Clubs, to submit proposals for what they can do in the short term with the existing facilities, not renovated, and self-financing.
Ms. Arts, is there any way to push this workshop closer than June? I don't want to get into a situation, if we do have a deadline of what, was it September you said?
End of the calendar year.
Which is
November, December.
Well, I'd still rather have more time. If you can move your workshop back to May or I don't know what you're
we could do it in May.
Give us more time.
I was letting March through May to be time to get lots of input from the school kids, from, community. And I didn't see this item. I was compiling data, and I didn't give it to you far enough in advance that you could really study it or say much about it now. And I didn't want to do that again after we do this next round of information.
I don't want to get into another horse arena situation where we're at the last minute, we do an RFP, say the YMCA or whatever comes in and that says, okay, here's the facility we want. Now we got to bid that out, design it, build it by the end of the year. That's my only concern.
And exactly, that's why I have been working, we talked about timeline to have that built by November of 2012. When do we need to start?
2012?
November of 2012.
Okay.
We got time.
The goal is to have it.
But still, you're right. I think she's proceeding down that road with your thoughts in mind that we got to start.
Yeah.
We need time.
Yeah, and Alan had said if by the end of, he'd like a year to do the bid and the building, and so if we by this coming November know what we want to build, then that'll give us a whole year to do it.
I mean, it's going to take us a while, all of us, to figure out what we want to build with the input from the public. I mean, what do we want to build? I got some ideas, and I'm sure you do too, but we got to all agree on that. Can we afford it? So
I just, I like to see us move as quickly as reasonable, I guess is what I'm saying.
I agree.
And that'll be the longer that the building's in service too, whatever it is.
Well, does everybody feel, does it make that much difference to you to move it, try to push it up to May, or does June work okay?
I think the quicker you get onto it, the better, because as soon as the courthouse moves out, we've got an expense to maintain it, and the sooner I can get rid of that expense, the happier I'm going to be.
Okay, but again, there's two parallel things, and staff is bringing, Doug Jones may want to talk, he'll be bringing an item end of February or in March about what we'll be doing there this summer. So he's on that track. I'm on the more long-range planning, and I was going to bring that to you in June after we really have it pretty well worked out in terms of community input, and the architects and landscape architects have had a chance to do all of their work.
Alan?
Well, and this is a question, and this is stuff that if we were charging a Parks and Rec impact fee to go towards building this building, if it's Parks and Rec related?
It would be partially eligible, yes.
Or it could also be paid for with the 1 cent gas tax with the Parks and Recreation building component also.
Yes.
Either one.
Or both.
Or both.
Right.
That's a valid point.
I'm just talking about things where we're talking about money and the fees that are going to be coming up. I'm just putting it out there so we all know. Do you have a motion, Commissioner Arts?
Well, I was afraid to propose the workshop. but I think I'm hearing that y'all are open to that, so then I move to have the board accept this update and to schedule a workshop for June, or May?
What?
June is
I'm
okay?
sorry, I misunderstood. I thought we were talking about this year. If you feel better,
I feel better about
that's
June.
fine with me.
Okay, so to schedule a workshop in June.
To schedule a workshop, we'll ask staff to do that for us and put that on the calendar, and seconded by Mr. Merritt. Any more discussion? Any citizens? More discussion by the board? Hearing none, all for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That's your only item, Ms. Arts?
Yes.
Okay. Next one is my item, and I'm going to refer to staff here that I've asked them to prepare an update regarding the Wakulla Gardens stormwater issue. And I'm going to ask Lindsay to walk us through this.
Okay, and I would note that we have Alan Weiss from Preble Rich, who I'm actually going to turn this over to pretty shortly, but as the board knows, we've been working on Wakulla Gardens issues for some time, and it was actually about a year ago that the board directed staff to use $20,000 from the emergency reserve account to prepare construction drawings for 6 emergency flood basin areas within Wakulla Gardens. We just want to give you a quick update, and if you guys want to get down in the weeds, ask us questions, and we'd be happy to answer them. Staff did work on identifying the 6 flood basins within Wakulla Gardens, and we had to obtain permission from the property owners to actually go on their property and assess certain areas. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of where we've been really the past year.
Lindsay, one question. Is this all 5 units of Wakulla Gardens?
The 6 priority areas are actually in 2 of the units. And so you still have some additional areas. We did the stormwater master plan for all of Wakulla Gardens, and then we just decided to pick 6 areas where you have a lot of homes and you have a lot of the flooding issues as priority to start out with. We've identified some areas that are appropriate to locate stormwater facilities, and we've also identified some wetland areas, which we needed to go ahead and have wetland delineations completed on those areas. We've got Preble Rich has spoken with the Water Management District to determine whether or not it's appropriate to try to permit some impacts to these wetlands. Some of the wetlands are in better shape than others. We were kind of looking to see if any of these were appropriate to actually locate stormwater facilities near or adjacent or in, and Alan can kind of give you an update on where we're at with that. But the attachment, I know the attachment that the board received is kind of hard to read, and I would note that we, even since you all have looked at that attachment, we've made some refinements to the plans, because in speaking with the permitting agencies, it appears that, you know, some of the proposed areas are just not going to be permittable for stormwater facilities, so we've got to kind of take a step back and adjust. But we are trying to quickly wrap up this phase of the project so we can move on to speaking with the board about actually acquiring property. We're trying to determine cost estimates, because I know that the board's directed us to work on a stormwater assessment, so that plays into it as well. So I guess I'll let Alan, if he's got any kind of overall comments he wants to make, or if you guys just want to start firing away with questions.
One more question before Alan starts. What is the intention of how to pay for these lots, or how are they being paid for? Is it being paid for with gas tax money, or plan on how to buy it? If we're going to buy lots and we're going to build ponds, is there a plan to pay for that?
Well, I think part of this study was coming up with the cost estimates, and we had spoken about doing the potential for doing an assessment in the area, which would play into that. But, you know, there's no...
Short of a grant, that's about the only thing we can do.
Which, you know, I think that's legitimate. I know we're, you know, engineering stuff, but if this area is going to benefit by stormwater, then, you know, they assess $10 a year. I've always advocated for that.
But we got to
I just don't want everybody to pay for it.
To the cost of what it's going to cost us first. So, okay.
That's correct. Just to, I guess, expand on what Lindsay said, we had some issues with wetlands. We had the wetlands delineated. We met with the Water Management District. They pretty much told us that they will allow no impacts to those wetlands for stormwater ponds. So we're backing up, revising our models. We've had some discussions with staff and revising the design of the facilities just a little bit. We are on schedule to provide construction plans and cost estimates of proposed improvements within each of the 6 identified basins, so that the county knows which lots they need to purchase if they were to go with this plan, and what construction costs they might expect in each of the areas. Speaking of a grant, I'll remind you that we did apply for a FEMA grant for it would cover 90% of all of the stuff that we're looking at, which I can't remember, but I think it was about $3 million. We'll have a response from FEMA sometime in April. I wasn't able to get in touch with them today to find out if it's going to be the beginning of April or the end of April, but while we were waiting on the property owners to respond that we could access their property to delineate wetlands, we utilized that time to apply for this grant, and went through some pretty heavy response to comments and things, so we're still in the running for a fairly sizable grant.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes. Are the properties you identified, are those buildable properties or primarily good properties for your stormwater retention?
Well, they are good properties for our stormwater retention, obviously located in the low areas of the
So it would be hard for them to build on? It would be hard to build on those properties?
Well, they're certainly buildable, but lots of them contain floodplain, so
okay.
They would need, I mean, I can't say that anyone's property is not buildable.
Okay.
Oh, I know some that's not. And I don't know if you're working on this, but a lot of problem with Wakulla Gardens out there is this may be the low spot, but the roads run So you got to get it from here to there. Are y'all looking at doing ease? And I always thought about this, and I asked a few builders and whatever about it, but if you just took 5 or 10 feet from each side and got an easement, and not try to buy their entire property just to get it from this road to that road because it goes downhill, that is probably the major problem out there.
That's part of this process of stalling, whatever. I mean, they looked at all that. That's one of the first things we talked about, was trying to get it from between roads. We're going to have to go through properties. We know that. So, I mean, that's an issue. We're going to have to get easements.
And the lots are fairly small out there in an instance like that, as opposed to eating up their yard with an easement. What we would do is propose to buy each of the 2 lots and put some stormwater capacity in those 2 lots, as well as providing
I'm
conveyance.
speaking of lots where somebody already owns a house.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to buy the whole property and tear the house down just to get the water.
I agree. Are
you also working with Leslie Pope on this? Is she working with you? Because I saw a topo she did of this.
Yes, we're teamed up. Hydra performed the overall flood study for the gardens, and they are also providing the modeling for this.
And you model it for a 100-year storm?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I had a gentleman, and I'll talk separately to you, but a gentleman called today that has property that abuts that whole subdivision to the east, with an offer, but it's all about money, and that's what I told him. But he would have a way we could get it off site, if you will, to run it into stormwater retention areas.
Lots of his property is also wetlands.
Yes, it is.
Which were partially identified by our wetlands delineation.
But he said it's a lot of it's got, I don't know, I haven't done, you guys need to do and it may be the same gentleman, I'll talk to you offline about that, but,
sure.
But if it's possible, maybe look at some of his property, if some of it is upland that can take water. If not, then it may not be an idea at all, but at least he offered. So
we're happy looking at that as well.
We got to do something. I mean, there's been, talk in the public about, why aren't we doing it to other subdivisions? I can tell you that, and I said this to the board before, before you two guys come on board. When we had that heavy rain last year, it was so deep in there you couldn't get in there. The folks couldn't get to that. They had to park out on the highway on Shell Point Road and wade into their houses. That's how bad it was. It was embarrassingly bad. And every time we build a house in there, we're just causing more and more trouble. We've been aggressive in trying to rock the roads now, make it better where they're at least passable. But it's a mess over there. It's a mess. Randy. And we got to address it.
Years, but so I've been working on this for years.
I know, and it's something that we got to do. That's just going to keep building out at 50 by 100 foot lots until we all die, and it's going to be a mess over there. And so it's incumbent on us. We were handed it. Now we got to fix it, and this is the way we got to fix it: is try to figure out a way to get that water out of those lots.
And we are looking at, after we finish this one, and at the same time, some of our other historic neighborhoods with similar issues. It's not that we're ignoring.
This is the worst place in the county.
But the Grinders and Magnolia are getting looked at.
I agree. I think it's better to do one of something instead of do nothing, if we can pay for it.
Any more, Lindsay? You're done?
I'm here for questions.
This is just an update, so there's no motion needs to be made. But Howard Kessler, you had a card to be heard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Well, thank you for your efforts with the stormwater, which has been a challenge. And just like Chairman Stewart said, the more we build in there, the worse the stormwater runoff will be. But at the same time, we're also faced with referring over that. I still get questions from citizens going to the county about road paving. Some of them are still under the impression that this is right around the corner. I tell them I don't think so, but...
no, sir, it's not.
Okay.
I can't see it in the foreseeable future. Plus, we've all talked about we don't want to pave until we put sewer, and you know how far sewer is away. So I'd say the answer is no. We're going to try to do this graveling and keep it up as well as we can. And the graveling will work better when we get the stormwater issue resolved. I mean, that's the bigger issue, is the stormwater. And then all those other things will come together. But I think when they ask you, the answer is no, it's way off.
Okay. And the thing I was going to go to third was the issue of continuing building in Wakulla County or gardens rather, with 8 to 9 septics per acre is what we're faced with. And that's something that the board struggled with when I was on there, but I think that, just like you said, Commissioner Chairman Stewart, the board is going to have to face that issue and come up with some kind of plan of how to address that as well, because that's certainly not good for our groundwater. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and also commenting on the rocks, the gravel we're putting down also then continues to serve as road base as it gets ground down, and will make it cheaper when we come in and actually pave the roads in the future, because there will already be that strong road base down. We had a citizen email us with a complaint about that, and I just
Unless you put gravity sewer in and dig it all up.
and then it comes back as road base on top of it.
But we can't pave in there until we address stormwater. That would be the most foolish thing we could ever do, is to put a stick of pavement down in there. I mean, this has got to be done. All you guys understand that.
Move to accept the update.
Okay, moved by Mr.
Second.
Brock to accept, seconded by Ms. Arts. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And County Attorney, any items?
I just have one quick announcement. As you all know, the Log Creek matter that was pending in federal court has been settled. There's a few procedural loose ends that we're tying up, but I wanted to let you all know that we were able to accomplish that. And also the Crum and Tucker versus Wakulla County matter has been now settled. We're waiting to hear from the other side's attorney on signing the papers, but everything else has been taken care of. And I wanted to thank Commissioner Stewart. He worked a lot of hours on representing the board in those settlement discussions for both of those, and he did a great job, and he represented the county well.
Do we have any other pending lawsuits? I almost hate to ask.
We do, and I'm actually going to be bringing you just a quick update on the second meeting in February. It doesn't need to be a shade meeting. I'm just going to bring you up to speed on what is pending out there. I can tell you that most of the big items that were pending when we took over as county attorney have been cleaned up now and have taken away. We do have one pending item dealing with the building department, and there are some issues that FACT is dealing with for you all, but they're not major ones at this point, at least.
Okay. All right, Mr. Administrator?
Yes, Commissioner, I do have a few comments, some updates. I got a call late last week from Mr. Charles Carter, financial investigator, criminal enforcement from the Department of Financial Services, office up in fiscal integrity. He was investigating some allegations made by a citizen regarding the housing department and some potential criminal activity going on down there.
Speak up, please.
He was investigating some citizen allegations about some criminal activity at the housing department. I just wanted to let you know that I spoke to Mr. Carter. He's followed up with a letter that I'll be forwarding to you that just states that there was no finding of any criminal activity in the housing department for any of the allegations that were levied against the housing department. And I'll just read the finding in his letter. It says the problems found within the housing department were administrative, relating to rules and procedures. Their actions did not appear to be criminal in nature. It was therefore recommended that this case be closed. I just wanted that cloud lifted off the housing folks down there, so they don't have to carry that around with them, and they know that there's been nothing, and the board and actually the citizens know that there's been no illegal activity found going on down there. Second thing I'd like to talk about is the issue with the leave, or the claim against Ms. Stevens that was levied regarding her leave. I can tell you that she took her leave. She got it approved before she left, as well as Ms. Langston did before she left on her maternity leave. It was all within FMLA required and within county policy. In fact, Ms. Stevens was working past her date, as she stated in this letter, and she came back before the date of this letter. There is no county policy on employees working from home. If there's a reason that they need to work from home for a day, I see no reason not to allow it. I mean, obviously there's some positions that obviously they can't work from home. If you're a building inspector, working from home is not an option. But I find it very productive when they do work from home. I know I worked from home last Thursday in the morning because I needed to get some work done and I just couldn't get it done in the office, so I took my computer home. That's why we have laptops that are portable. But I think since we've had 3 babies in the last year in the administrative office. Not being flexible with newborn mothers is just not something that I'd be willing to do. If it's wrong to try to be flexible and to accommodate when there's child issues, then that's a hit I'll just take. So I just want to be clear that there was nothing inappropriate going on with Ms. Lindsay's leave. So just leave it to you.
Tim, my main issue with that, I don't have a problem with what you did, as long as the same applies to everybody. It's not just upper management, it's everybody. If they can work from home, I'm not going to get in your business and tell you, I just expect you to get the job done. But I want to make sure that applies to everyone.
Absolutely, because like I said, there's some positions that obviously, working from home is just not effective. They're just you're required to be in the office. I'm sorry?
Melissa, for example, if she...
Absolutely, and it applies to everybody that if they've got an issue at home, I'm more than flexible. If you can get some work done at home, actually I find them more productive when they work from home, because the most unproductive worker is a worried mother. They're not going to be productive in the office if they're worrying about where their child is or if they're getting taken care of. So
I just found the easiest, one of the best ways to stay out of trouble that I used to manage a bunch of people is if you treat everybody the same consistently, problems usually don't ever come up.
Absolutely.
That's my question.
Absolutely. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you had item 23 about the county administrator application. We'll cover that tonight.
Yes, we can cover that. It's just an update from the last meeting. We kind of put forth a process for the board to consider. Commissioner Arch, in fact, had suggested a process for calling down the applications and getting it down to 10. This kind of just codifies that process, and it's for the board consideration. And there's also a suggested way of reducing when you go through the applications. It's not something that you would be required to do, but if it's a good suggestion, so if you feel...
I think it's very good what you did, Ms. Arch, and I appreciate that work you did. I think that'll help.
Move to accept.
Okay, move to accept. We have a second.
I got a question.
Get this motion on the floor first.
Sorry.
Second.
Second by Ms. Arch. Okay, Mr. Moore?
Sorry about that. My only comment is, let's get on with it. Let's don't hesitate, whatever.
Okay. We've got a timeline there. It'll be up to the board if they want to change.
What's your time?
It's in your book. It's a lengthy, detailed timeline.
Table. Short.
That's all right. I won't take your time tonight, but,
Commissioners, this process is up to you. So however you want to move it along or slow it down is up to you.
I think we need to have a serious... Jerry, you were mentioning earlier about saving some money. I think this budget year, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, we may end up being in a jam. This is a way, if possible, if we can put it off for a while, to save $100,000, not $10,000.
Right.
Everything, I went and sat down with Tim and Lindsay and says, tell me what's not getting done right now. And they couldn't come up with anything. Everything's getting done. People I'd love to see as the administrator, but if we're really serious about saving money, we need to take a hard look at this. Go talk to the clerk, talk to some people. I'm afraid we're going to reach a crisis point, literally, where we're going to need to make up some money. And I'm not advocating for...
I don't have any problem with that. It's a lot of money.
But I'm not on the, let me flip that around again. I would not support hiring a county administrator and then turn around and firing this man right here. I certainly would not support that.
Let me say this, interject here if I can, Mr. Moore. If we can continue with the timeline that Lynn suggested here and the process she suggested, and we have the option of going with the process and interviewing and finding the folks we want, and then with them the understanding that we may not be able to hire them until 1 October. That's when they come on board. We still have the process in place so that when 1 October comes, we have a new administrator. If that's what we want to do. I'm not advocating that right now. I think I am in agreement with Randy that we may be able to save at least $100,000 in this process if Tim stays in there as the the interim administrator. You suggested that at the last meeting. You're the one who brought it up, not I. I was quoted as being the one who brought it up, but it was your idea, sir.
Sometimes I get ahead of myself. So that I can sometimes when you develop relationships, it's hard to make good decisions. But just so that you know where I'm coming from, I want to see this job position that Tim held gone. And that has no due respect or anything for the job you're doing, Tim. I'm sure you're doing a great job. But when we hire a new administrator, and I don't want to see, well, let's see how I can say that. I don't want to say, Tim, you've got to go, bang. I would suggest to Tim that he look for other employment. And that's hard to say, Tim. I'm so sorry to say that. I will not fire you. You can have my word on that. Of course, I'm just one of 5, so you're all right. But my suggestion is somewhere down the road, if we bring in another administrator.
Attrition, then?
Yes, or just suggestions, you know. Once you know where I am, you know, you might find an opportunity that's twice as good as this. That's a lot less stressful. But I have no statement on the job you're doing. Sorry.
That's okay, Alan. Yeah, I just want to touch a couple of quick points. One, as we're talking about cutting positions, I want to make sure that Commissioner Moore is aware, and I'm sure you are, that we did cut the assistant administrator position about 2 years ago. There was one. And we took the 2 people right beneath that person and gave them more responsibility and a tiny pay raise as a way to try and reduce staff and be more efficient. So we've been looking at these things, and I'm sure if we can find other ways, we will continue to explore them. I don't think
Let me add that I can tell you this, and I hope all the board's taking the time. I keep encouraging y'all to go sit down and talk to Tim and ask the hard questions. And I can tell you that Tim is actively trying to figure out how to reorganize some attrition, and he's working on all that right now. I'm not going to talk about it in public. Tim knows what that is. I'd suggest you go in and ask him what those ideas that he has to do, but I just want to reassure the public, we're not sitting around idle waiting for somebody to quit or die so we can do away with that position. We're working on it. You got to understand, you can't just, well, you can fire people and then we're right back paying out the yin-yang for legal fees, and I'm not going to do that. We're going to do it the right way. I think we have to do it the right way. And, you know, businesses are, reduction in forces go on all through government all the time, and that's where we are, and he's working on it. I can assure you, you need to go in and spend the time to sit down and let him explain to you what the options are he's trying to put up before us now. Ms. Art?
And Tim, I just want to encourage you not to run out and find another job and leave us without anybody at the helm.
I agree.
Don't scare them away.
There's a balancing act there.
I feel
you should be looking, but
the bottom line is Tim's doing a great job. He's doing one job today that 2 people were doing. Tim is doing a job that 2 people were doing. When Tim finds that greater opportunity, he said he didn't particularly want our opportunity. When he finds that greater opportunity, then we can have one person doing the 2 jobs, whatever you want to call the job.
And Jerry, I agree with that, but again, not through force or not force.
No,
you know, kind of, hey Tim, I'm not saying anything, you know, I'm just saying.
I just had to get that out here tonight, so Tim knows how I feel.
Well, I think what I've heard here tonight is a vote of confidence that you're doing a good job, and we don't want you to go find a job. I don't want you to go find a job. I've heard Mr. Merritt say he don't want to find a job. I heard Mr. Brock say that. I've heard Ms. Art say that. So I think you got a vote of confidence that we're on an even keel here, and we want to keep moving ahead like we are. So hang in there. And I want the public to understand this is not an easy job. I see stuff written all the time that suggests anybody can walk in and do that job. You can't. And I dare you to, because I know what those folks go through. It's a thankless job, and it always will be. So, with that said, he's got thick skin. It's getting thicker daily, and I know I beat him up daily, and I think the rest of the commissioners are on him all the time. He's got 5 bosses who are screaming at him nonstop. Whoever's in that position is going to have the same stuff to face, and it's not going to be easy for anybody who goes in there. And I think we're going to get a new administrator, Mr. Moore. It's just I hear you want to save money. I think the way to save money is to go slow here, get a good administrator that we really want, who's going to do a good job for us, and save some money in this budget year we're in.
I totally agree with you.
Okay.
So it's not that I don't agree with you.
Okay, I'm with you.
Good.
All right, let's move on.
Did we need to accept?
We need a vote on to accept that. What do we need to do there?
We had the motion.
We have a motion and a second, do we?
What was the motion? Tell me again.
Move to adopt the proposed process ranking the
Okay.
county administrator applicants for interview and amended timelines for the schedule.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
Does that mean we adopt the timeline? The timeline has a hiring date on it.
It has a negotiation, the commission considers
I don't
contract.
want to box us in, is all I'm saying.
So,
Luther Council, you want to speak on this?
yeah. And we'd be able to, if we wanted to, say your first date would be October 1st. That would probably actually work well with this, as a contract term, and that would probably work well with this current proposed plan.
Luther Council, 1242 Wakulla Road. Think you need to go ahead and get you a new county administrator and go forward with it, and the timelines that you got to deal with, unless Mr. Barton wants to move to Wakulla County. I mean, it's required in the Florida statutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have checked with I've checked with the county attorney. The interim, as an interim county administrator, he doesn't have to live here, but to be the official county administrator, he would have to live in Wakulla. And he's one of our very, very few employees who does not live in the county.
In case you are looking for that requirement, the requirement in Florida statutes does not apply to charter counties. There is a provision in your charter that has language dealing with residing in the county. So that's the operable place you should look if you're interested.
Which I wish we'd put back on the agenda to let the public vote on it now that they really know what it's about, and see if we really want a charter, which opens up another whole can of worms for another day.
Oh, that's a good can of worms to open up.
But anyway, let's stay on this right now. Let's get this off the deal with it. So, any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And discussion issues by commissioners. Mr. Merritt?
Why don't we start on that end? I'm still right. Can we do that? All right.
Gets upset when I start on that end, so I'm going to start on your end.
Heather, what can Tim not do as interim county administrator that a full county administrator could do?
Well, you all have appointed, or the previous board appointed him as the acting county administrator, so he would have the full authority.
He doesn't have an employment contract with severance pay and so forth.
No, he does not.
That would really be the big difference, I guess.
True. Good point.
And he's making less money than the county administrator was making, the last one at least.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and stick my foot in my mouth here about Wakulla Gardens, but you mentioned earlier it'd be kind of crazy to pave the roads without stormwater. I'd like to look at some strategic paving in there, because I know when we paved Tafflinger, it made a huge difference to everybody in Magnolia Gardens, but it didn't pave every road, but it paved the main road.
Looked like a collector.
When we did it in Lake Ellen, we paved the road going into it, and we paved the collector road, exactly, where the people that lived on the street didn't have to travel that far to pavement. And I'd really like to look at maybe just doing a loop or something, not every road in there, but if we could just get people to some pavement, very similar to what we did in Magnolia Gardens, and that to just greatly improve people's lives. The roads that travel the most get the worst, washboardy and so forth.
If we could use this pavement like we used over here on...
Oh, no.
Well, just saying, if you go in there and put impervious pavement on there, where are you going to put the water, Randy? If we put it on people's yards, you know how to...
No. I'm not talking about just willy-nilly going and do it. Of course, it need to be part of a bigger plan, but at least, I'd like us to start thinking about that, hey, we need to go ahead and put a culvert here, because we know we're going to be building a stormwater pond over there. And that cold mix asphalt, I can talk about that all night, but I don't really like it.
Well, the one that we did when you were around, we didn't do correctly. I think we've done this one correctly, and it's a whole lot better.
You remember that one back there, and then what's one by Arlo Kelly's shop, we ended up going back and paving over it. The problem is on that cold mix, I know we're getting off subject, when you turn on it is where the problem is. If you're driving straight, it's beautiful, but as soon as you have them start making turns, it breaks the material up.
I would welcome that if you'd go in there and figure out a road. I mean, your education would help us facilitate finding a road that might accept pavement, that would collect the other roads. That would be great, but I'd want to do it in this, like we have in these other subdivisions, like you said, started trying to pave a road where everybody can get to.
And there is precedent, so in other words, we're not just showing favoritism to Wakulla Gardens. We've already done it in Lake Ellen, and we've already done it in Magnolia Gardens.
Okay.
Can I comment to that, though? On Taplinger, one of the things we made sure, though, was that we still had right of easement for the sewer, so that we wouldn't have to tear up the road afterwards. And I'm not sure that exists in Wakulla Gardens.
Now,
I may be wrong.
I'm not saying somebody may have told you that, but when you center a 20-foot road, low-pressure sewer, I'd go along with that 100%. Just imagine an excavator like Ben Boynton had out there digging a gravity line 15 feet in the ground, the road's going to be destroyed. Amen, the end, if it's a paved road. So, low-pressure sewer, that would work fine, because it's more like a water line you can put in with a trencher. But
And then the other thing would be to put in a dry line or something when you're putting in the road.
well, you could possibly go back and use low-pressure sewer in that area or something, and then when these pennies from heaven fall down and we can do that sewer, which so far hasn't happened.
Okay. Anything else? This time we want to just discuss things.
Yeah. I've been talking to Lindsay. We've had some recent changes in our wetlands enforcement rules where the Corps has taken over jurisdiction of isolated wetlands. That was one of the main reasons we have a county wetlands ordinance. And I'd like to take a hard look at that, see if it's necessary anymore. I know it's cost us several $100,000 in lawsuits. I don't know what it saved, but we have a governing body now that has jurisdiction over these isolated wetlands. But the problem is it's our comp plan, which is very unusual, is very specific. Instead of saying, here's our goal we want to reach to, which is protecting wetlands and marshes and so forth, it says you must have 75 foot this first 30. And Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of unusual to have that specific of a language in a comp plan, isn't it?
Other jurisdictions do have setbacks, but ours, there are some provisions in the comp plan that do read more like code language as opposed to general goals and objectives, which our water quality standards, some provisions of it do kind of walk that line.
So, in other words, if we all decided tomorrow that we think that the DEP and the Corps of Engineers can do a better job than us at managing wetlands, we still couldn't get rid of our wetlands ordinance because it's in the comp plan. So
You have to adjust the comp plan.
in the comp plan. Same thing applies with septic tanks. There's a pad with the Department of Health is doing a study right now on these performance-based septic tanks, and they're probably going to come out with some recommendations saying you guys really need to focus more, I'm just speculating, on Wakulla Springs protection area, for example. You may not need a performance-based septic tank on 10 acres in Smith Creek. But again, we can't change our rule because it's in the comp plan where everybody's got to have one. So
how do we change?
We got to do a comp plan amendment.
You have two comp plan amendments, the possibility of a year like in July maybe, and then again in December or whatever. So.
Is that right, Lindsay?
That's correct. We've got 2 cycles every year. And so the next cycle will be July, so we want to get our ducks in a row before that.
The commissioner put this on as an agenda item and got a vote from the board to proceed with changing the comp plan. That's what they need to do.
Correct. I would note that for those transmittals that we sent to the Department of Community Affairs, just like the one we did the transmittal hearing on this evening, you do need data and analysis to support the change that you're proposing. In the case of the performance-based septic tanks, Commissioner Merritt noted the regional performance-based septic tank study that's going on. I don't know the exact title of it, that joint study. And once that's complete, you could potentially use that study, the results of that study, as feeding into your data and analysis, and I think DCA would be open to that.
Lindsay, our rationale couldn't simply be that we think that the wording that we adopted is too specific, that we'd rather back off to a goal, and how we implement it via ordinance or code. I mean, would DCA buy that? Or
Well, I think you can, I think it, depending on if the board directed us to pursue that, I think it would certainly be helpful for us to go up to DCA and have a discussion with them
I
about.
think I talked to you about maybe sitting down with Susan or somebody. You know, this kind of analogous to the speed limit on 319 is 55 miles an hour, and we put that in the comp plan. I mean, the comp plan should say we want to make our roads safe, not what the speed limit is on a road.
Be specific.
Yes.
I will support you on that, whatever you decide on that. I will support you.
And I'm not saying we don't need these protections, but I want to look at it.
Okay.
And have we heard anything more about what's happening with DCA and up in Tallahassee?
Are they still there?
They're going to be joined together with the DEP and one other agency.
Well,
We don't know yet,
The
but yeah.
governor's proposal, he's got to
Okay.
wring a lot of hands before he gets that done. But
Yeah.
anyway,
They're still answering the phone, and they're still taking comp plan amendments.
anything else, Mr. Merritt? Alan?
We were discussing stormwater earlier. If we start looking at some sort of stormwater fee, it's been discussed with me in the past by some citizens who brought it up. It might be worth looking at a small fee for the whole county to try and actually start to develop a stormwater plan for the whole county. I know my district has flooding off Woodville Highway, and I have no idea what to do about it. Had citizens call me who bought property over there last year, and were calling Cleve and the fire department trying to figure out ways to get them out of their driveway. And there is nothing we can do because it's private land. So
Maybe that's something we could approach the ARPC or something like that about. But I think the stormwater study you're talking about is like a creek, not just necessarily Winn-Dixie's parking lot, but
yeah, I'm talking about, but there's just an understanding of stormwater and developing a plan for our county, because right now we don't have a real
master
plan for Wakulla County.
we have a lot. Back when I was doing this development, the regulations now are a lot stricter, because now the Water Management District not only regulates stormwater quality but also quantity. So your runoff after development cannot exceed your pre-development runoff, and that's not that long ago a development. It was simply capture the first half inch of rain. After that, who cares? Now they look at that, so they've kind of taken care of, I wouldn't say take care of, but when you go build a subdivision now, you have to show you're not discharging any more stormwater off-site than you were before, basically.
Something has been brought up, just I wanted to put it out there for discussion. Also touching briefly, I appreciate Commissioner Arts coming back with an update on the community center, working towards our goals. One of the things that I'm waiting on and should come in the next 2 months for my focus on downtown Crawfordville is the CRTPA is going to be bringing back a study on the roads, and I'm just curious to see what they say.
Yeah. That's me.
Yeah, that's you, but it's good. They've done a study already on the Crawfordville. They've done one on Woodville corridor, and they're doing one on the Crawfordville corridor.
Very fancy.
Very fancy. And there's some ideas out there that I think are really interesting, but we need to wait for that study, which we aren't funding, which is awesome. Which we didn't pay for the study, but we're waiting for that study before we come back with some of the other ideas. And there might be some other developments coming in the near future. Well, in the near future being next few months. So.
Talking about studies, I want to make sure that we don't order any studies that we can't pay for. You know, if somebody wants to do a study and it's going to cost anything, I think I would like to know about it. I have a couple of items. I probably have 100 items, but I'll just go over a couple. It's what you call a learning process. But as I get better acquainted with what I'm doing, there seems to be a great disconnect between our getting a grant and getting it on the ground, getting a grant and getting it finished, getting it, I said early on we need a great grants person. Most times that's free money. Most times I think you can build your cost of securing the grant into the grant in a lot of cases, and you can't object to free. So we need to have a great grant person, but it isn't going to help us any if we get a grant and we can't get it on the ground. So we need to consider at some point in time having a great grant person, and then having somebody who can put it on the ground and get it done. I mean, I come in here and there's grants that's been hanging around for years, and that should not be acceptable. On your historic village, if we can help you, I'm talking about myself pretty much, but get with your owner, find out if he will take a lease, get your price down. He can't, today, land's not worth anything. The tax assessor has one value on land, the buyer has another value on the land, and there's all kinds of values, but it's the low value today on property. Get with your owner, get him to give you a figure that you can live with. We'll work with you on doing the lease. It's to hold that property. Maybe it's not unheard of. You can put anything in a lease that's legal. So it's not that you can't do something. As long as it's legal, you can do it. So you can start moving houses into the property.
How do you pay for it?
We're not going to pay the guy. We're going to get a lease.
I want to meet this guy. I want to meet him.
If I had a piece of property today and you wanted to buy it, I'd give you a deferred lease. You defer it. You defer your cost.
Okay, but Jerry, what my question is they do all this expensive work to move these houses onto that property, of hoping to get a grant, and the grant doesn't come.
Well, then, you just keep stipulating it. You put a stipulating in that when the county is running a $500,000 budget surplus, that you will come by and pick up his property. You can do those sorts of things. Well, you do it when you get a grant. You buy it with a grant, but otherwise you got 6 years to do this, or whatever time you get a $500,000 surplus in your budget, and then you go buy it.
What happens in the meantime? A millionaire comes down from New York City and he wants to buy that piece of land, and he buys it out from under us.
That's not a problem. I got a lease on him. He can't do that. It's not.
This guy.
It's not hey, I could be the guy. It's not that. It's not that difficult.
Okay. I hear you.
Okay. I think we ought to take some of our road funds that's discretionary and put into the Wakulla Gardens project. If we have road funds that we're paving roads or resurfacing roads, we got roads that need to be surfaced. So we need to pull away from some of that resurfacing and
Here's one thing that baffled me too. We got road impact fees, but apparently we can't use them or there's no good project on county roads to improve capacity. So we're spending it on a state road, which will definitely increase capacity. And my question was, like I asked about Old Shell Point Road, well, could we use impact fees to do that? And apparently not. You can't use. It's counterintuitive, is what I'm saying. That you can't.
There's a lot of strings attached to it.
I mean, my next question was, well, if we widen the road and then pave it, could we use the impact fees? Because there's a lot of money there.
Probably.
You know what I mean? And I asked somebody that.
Good point. Can you?
Well, it depends. I mean, on the project. Sometimes when you're paving a road, it will add, you can go faster, so you can get more traffic through, so you are increasing capacity. I mean, it's really a case-by-case basis. I haven't been asked about Old Shell Point Road.
I don't remember that. And I'm certainly not saying throw out I don't want to stop a project that's underway, but it just seems counterintuitive that whoever's looking at this saying it's not right, well, it's a dirt road, we're going to a paved road, but that doesn't increase the capacity of it. Of course it does.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? That's what's a little frustrating to me. Okay. And that's not them doing it. It's court precedents, I guess.
It's going to be partially eligible. You'd probably take a look at the additional trips that you would be able to add and prorate it based upon those percentages. But, I mean, again, it's a case-by-case basis. You have to look at each project.
Well, if possible, I'd like to use funds that come from us, on us, we can spend money on a state road, but you're going to be hard-pressed to see the state spend money on a county road. It just hardly ever happens.
Anything else? Okay, Ms. Hart.
Okay, on Thursday, the 10th, we have a workshop, just so you all remember, okay, on smart growth and sustainable communities. And then that's February 10th. And then there'll be a workshop coming up in March on the Crawfordville Town Plan. And what I wanted to let you know that I'm also in the spring going to be trying to organize some sessions in MedArt for people who want to talk about doing something similar in MedArt, having, begin to vision and think about boundaries and what do we want MedArt to be, and, so.
Make sure you invite Marshall Spears.
Well, everybody, I'm going to invite everybody in MedArt, but I just wanted to let you know what's on my to-do list. Tomorrow, I'm having a meeting with to look at a partnership between the county and the Historical Society to apply maybe for an Our Town grant that can help with the Crawfordville Town Plan and help with some of the Historical Society's goals, like what they're doing with the jail and the courthouse and the theater, and because it is to fund more art-type things. But so John Sewell's going to participate in the Historical Society, and we'll bring that back to the board if it looks like we can put together a proposal. I am also just looking forward to 2 items that I've been waiting for quite a while, and so anything that staff can do to bring these finally to the board. I think we need a park board. I really want to, I think to have this group provide some guidance about what we want to do in terms of the county for park development and what we want to go after for grant money and what our priorities are.
Is this different from the Parks and Rec Board that we have now?
Well, we had a Park and Rec Board, and then we split them.
Will this kind of be like the Library Advisory Committee that we have, something?
It'll be the equivalent of the Rec Board, but they'll oversee parks and also have input into fees and festivals and all that kind of stuff.
Would they be collecting money like the Rec Board does and spending money, or just
I don't know that
advisory
they'll do that.
capacity?
More advisory, I think.
We love committees.
More advisory. But now one of the things that each of you was asked to identify 2 park board members from your district. And if you don't know people, I think Ray has some names, and try to think of people who would represent, like someone from the Historical Society or the Heritage Village. If they live in your district, that would be a good representative on the park board. My 2 people, one is a cyclist who's been real involved on the different bike trails, and so he'll bring that perspective, and the other is with nursery and plants kind of perspective. But, we need to get people with all the different aspects of we have waterfront parks, all, whatever. We need lots of diverse groups. So be working on your appointees. And in addition to the park board, I've been looking forward to an update on the enterprise zone. So I hope that'll be coming. And that's everything.
See staff writing.
I got a couple more things to say, Judy, if you can bear with me a minute.
Yeah, I will.
All right. Number one, when I've been looking at this force main, I said I would check that out. I think if the money's there to pay for it, I wouldn't call it a study, but we really need a model of our pipes, our system. We don't have that now. With a model of if it wasn't expensive and we had to wait to pay for it, you could say, well, if I change this, what will that do? Because when I talked to Preble Rich's force main guru, she seemed to think we could handle 5 million gallons a day through that 12-inch force main we got out there. And that'll carry us for many, 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 many years into the future without having to build a new one. So, but we don't know that. And there's all kind of different components of it, and anyway, I asked her to come back with a number to make a hydraulic model. Very commonly done in water supply systems like Sopchoppy or whatever, so you can have some sort of plan for the future.
Is this a computer
Model,
model?
that's correct. Last item, when I was, my first meeting, I think I said I was going to look into a carpool, doing a thing on the county's thing. Jessica looked into that along with our Inspired Technologies. He found a existing website that does exactly what I was kind of thinking about. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel. I just, maybe we could find a way to direct folks to it or possibly even advertise it. Do you remember the name of it was? Anyway, you input where you're starting from, where you're ending up at, and it's very user-friendly, with no cost to us.
Kind of connects you with other people that...
Exactly, looking for rides. I live in Songbird, I drive to the White Building.
Can we make it a connection to our website?
A link maybe would... Just at no cost, you know, that was the main thing. And then possibly advertise it a little bit with some...
I've forgotten the name of it, but I signed up on that. There weren't very many people.
There was only two on there when I looked at it.
Right.
But, you know, if we...
But if it starts building them...
If we had some funds that are designated, some grant funds, whatever, designated for carpooling, maybe we could run an ad in the Wakulla News or something saying, hey, check this out. Because I obviously didn't know about it. And
Are you familiar with the van pool program?
I see the big billboard over there.
They got billboards on both sides of the county advertising the van pool program for people who are interested in van pool. If you aren't familiar with the van pool program and you might be interested, there are billboards on both sides of the county. Reach out and contact them. It's a good program for people who live near people who are going to the same location, state workers.
I think I understand from Lindsay told me this, that if you van pool, for example, and your kid gets sick or something, they'll give you a ride home, so you're not stuck. That seemed really
That program gives everyone a taxi voucher, so that if there's an emergency, because that's the main concern a lot of people have with carpooling, is if you take the van to Tallahassee, you're trapped at your state office all day until your van pool goes home. But they have a voucher they give you that's good for the taxi in case your kid has to go to the hospital or you have to come back to your home to get your car to pick your kid up at school. They do provide a voucher for that to help make it so that, to encourage people to take advantage of to use this system and try and reduce traffic.
It's very inexpensive, and it's on a month-to-month basis, and your first month is free. It's a trial, whatever. Anyway, people should look into it.
You have any? You got something else?
I got half a minute.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I would like to say how much I appreciate Randy's expertise. I think it's absolutely excellent being able to work with an engineer, someone that can answer the questions and you're not even running for re-election, so I can say this. So, and I'd like to compliment Mr. Stewart for maybe getting us out of here before 8 o'clock. I think that broke a record.
Ain't gonna happen. I got a couple things.
Oh, excuse me.
I'll try to be brief. One thing I want to just tell the public is these septic tank cards that everybody received in the mail, the county has nothing to do with that, not to my knowledge. Is that correct, staff?
That's correct.
Okay. It's a study that FSU, I mean, I've got my own opinion about why it's there, but, and I answered mine, and I was quite frank with them, but, I think they're trying to get ammunition so that when it comes before, there's a bill that a couple of legislators are sponsoring to get through, hopefully this session, to eliminate this
inspection program, which is going to be grossly expensive for the citizens if it passes. And I think they're going to try to get this repealed so that doesn't happen. I'm in hopes of that. I'm not speaking for the board. I just want the public to make sure, because I've had calls, why in the world are we doing that? I said it's not the county. It's a separate group that's doing that. FSU is doing it. So anyway, with that said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and we'll be out before 8.
So moved.
Second. And we're adjourned.
Thank you.
You're a good man.
We did it anyway.
Broke a record.
Yeah, we did. Now I can drive up Truesdale and pick my daughter up.
That's what's got to be before 8 o'clock.